Good morning, Jess.
Hey, Lisa.
Hi, Jessica. How are you?
Doing good. How are you?
Good. Okay, so my computer audio is working. I'm having a problem with my my cell phone notifications, like when it doesn't ring, the phone doesn't ring.
That's
I
weird.
had shut it off. I put it in airplane mode on Saturday because I was with my sister in Pennsylvania and she's in the valley. So she said to put it in airplane mode because otherwise it'll drain the battery. So I
Mm-hmm.
did. And then, after we were done doing what we were doing, I turned it back on. And then from that point on, people can call me, but I can't hear the ringtone. So I'm trying to figure that out.
Oh my goodness. Ugh.
I
I'll be
can't.
right back. I just got to button up
Oh,
some.
yeah.
Okay.
Okay. Yep.
Thanks.
Hello.
Hi. Hi, Fran.
Hi.
It's Lisa. How are you?
Fine. How are you on this hot morning?
Woo! It is a scorcher.
I know. I'm going to sign in over here, I guess, right?
Yes, please do.
I mean, we're getting no break. Wait a minute. I didn't see the F there. Do you see the F?
Let me see. Hang on one
Wait a minute.
moment.
Let me just start all over. Just say F-R-A. Oh, I see. And all right. You have an R there. Okay. Okay. You got me?
Let me see. Yes, got
I have
you.
R. I have R ahead, I think. Oh, it's Lisa.
Yes, hello.
I thought it was going to be Jessica.
Yes, Jessica will be here in just a moment.
Oh, gosh. And I see you sent me another link this morning on the legal one I'm taking.
Excellent.
It's going to be a busy day sitting here all day.
Easy, yes. Hi, good morning. Now I see, oops. Let's see, you're muted. Can you please sign in if you haven't done so already? Fran, you're okay. Now I see your name on the screen as Lucky CA. I just need to know
Carol.
your name.
It's Carol Lavelle. She's in the group chat.
Oh, okay, perfect. Carol Lavelle, perfect.
Oh, you're muted, Carol.
She's muted. So we have two so far, right, Jessica? That's
Yes.
it? Okay.
I guess I don't see Jessica.
Yeah, my camera's not on yet.
Oh, okay.
We're running a little late this morning. Leave it to me to work from home and run late.
I know.
I'll be an hour early to the office.
Right.
Ah, I think I'm going to put my eye drops in my, well, I wonder if I should put them in.
Hi, Dorothy. You're muted.
I'm just racing, and how are you? You look fabulous.
You do too, as always.
Goody. I'll be back in 2 minutes. I'm gonna go just get ready for something. Yeah?
Okay.
You
Good
says,
morning, Dorothy.
hey, Jack. Oh my God. Hi, guys.
Hi.
It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. I'll be right
Yeah.
back.
Okay.
Okay.
Good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Good. Please sign into the group chat, please.
Okay. Okay, I just went to the chat.
Hey, Lisa,
Hey, how are you?
you want me to sign in?
You. Good morning, everybody. If you're just joining us, please sign in the group chat.
I should log back in with my name instead of my email. Let me log back in.
Okay.
Hi, Gino. How are you?
Good, good. Hi, how are you?
I'm doing good. It's nice to see you. How are your plants?
Well,
Good morning, everyone. If everyone could please sign in the group chat for attendance.
Morning, Jessica.
Good morning.
Morning, Vicky.
Hi, could you hear me?
Hi, no.
I don't know.
Yes.
One second.
You want to check the audio? Abby? Little arrow there next to the microphone. And then the audio settings. Test your mic. Just talk.
Hi.
Okay, it's working.
Okay, we're still missing people. If everyone could please sign in the group chat to everyone so both moderators can see it, please.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes.
Hello, Tony Shone.
If you're on a desktop computer or laptop, the chat is located at the bottom. Just click on chat and then you'll see type message here. Just put your name and that you're here and hit the return button.
So I've got 2 today, ladies. Really? I'm so excited. Oh my gosh. Anyway. So, hey, Tony. Tony Schoen, how are you? Vicky, how are you? Pretty cool. I see quite a few familiar faces here. We don't have a huge class, so hopefully we'll be able to have a pretty awesome discussion. So, Tony, do you know where your button is?
Everyone coming in, please sign in the group chat. I'm still missing a few people.
Cool. All right. Whilst you're all signing into the group chat, I really would appreciate if you'd also find how to mute and unmute yourself, because that's going to be important for the class, if you don't mind. Yep. Cool.
Good morning. Please sign in if you're just logging into class. Sign into the group chat, please.
Shimon, we need you to sign in the group chat, please.
So how are we doing, ladies?
Good. I just need Sally and Shimon to log in, and we're just missing one person, so you can.
We're
start.
missing one more person. Okay, guys,
I'm
it's
taking a
about
class until
8:31.
12:30. What?
Okay, it's 8:31, ladies, and 9:31, ladies and gentlemen. Dorothy Botzell, Lisa and Jessica are on here as our moderators from staff today. I tend to like to start on time. And for those of you, Tony, I realized you found your button, so you unmuted. Good job. For everybody, we're gonna mute, but during the class, I will ask you to unmute. If you are working in your office, I need to see you. It means you're not paying attention. You either want to stop working 50 minutes here because fair housing is an important discussion, or get off the class. So before I call you out, thank you, appreciate it. Fair housing, just so you know, we are being scrutinized a lot more. We have a lot of different rules that have come out in the past 3 days. I am going to do my best to point them out to you. There are a lot of changes, and we are being looked at with really, really high scrutiny. So what's going to lose your license is your violation of the fair housing laws, not understanding or thinking you know it all. I am passionate about fair housing. I am an advocate. I love the course. I take a lot of classes. I argue a lot for fair housing, but I'm going to challenge you to participate in this class. We got 3 hours or so. It is an interactive class. We're going to talk through this, and I'm going to be asking you some questions to which I'll be needing some answers at the end of the class. So I'm going to have Jessica and Lisa do your thing before we get started. So.
Great, thank you. Shimon, please sign in the group chat. Sally, you have your hand raised. Do you have a question?
How am I supposed to sign in?
Okay, are you on a phone or on our desktop?
I'm on a phone.
Okay, so on an iPhone?
Android.
Android? Okay. Android, I believe you just tap the screen, and at the bottom you'll see more.
I'm
you
sorry.
click on,
I can't get, I know usually how to do these things, but it's not going to a chat or anything.
all right, let me try to privately chat you.
Okay, so while you figure that out, do you have a thing? Go ahead, Jesse.
You can start, Dorothy.
Okay, so Lisa, Jesse, anybody want to read your thing? Go.
Okay, just make sure that you have your cameras on for the duration of the class. And please mute yourselves when Dorothy is talking, unless she asks you to unmute yourselves. This way, there's no background distractions. And please, no driving while you're on a Zoom class.
Sorry.
A thing. Oh, Elizabeth, you just came in. Can you please sign in the group chat?
Okay, so we're good? Can I get on with it? Okay,
Yes.
good morning, guys. Dorothy Botso here. I will be teaching your class today. I have been an instructor for the board for quite some time. Several classes I teach. This is one of my favorites. I teach REO classes. I have several other classes coming up to address diversity and inclusion, and also have, you know, dealing with conscious, unconscious bias, a lot of things that may affect our business. So what we are going to do today is go through the fair housing portion of things. I tend to ask a lot of questions. I'm looking for you to have input. I'm not talking at you for 3 hours. I don't do that. What we are going to do is we're going to watch a couple of videos, a couple of scripts. My questions to you after we, once we begin the class, would be for you to answer several questions for me, which would be why you're here, whether or not we think fair housing is important, just so that I get an idea of how we are proceeding with this course. So unmute yourselves. Unmute yourselves, because we're going to have a quick discussion. And I see all your names, so don't worry about it. I'm going to call on you. Your answer's not bad. For the purposes of the 3 hours we are here, this is a safe environment. It is a safe environment. We have to feel free to discuss fair housing. You can ask any questions, and I'm good with that. The only thing I will not tolerate will be using any discriminatory comments, any acronyms, any names to describe people. Not cool. Any national origin. I'm going to be Jewish. I'm going to be Black. I'm going to be white, whatever. We're just going to talk through the fair housing class. So hopefully you will be able to get something from it, and we will be able to answer some questions for you. So to begin here, why fair housing? Do we think we need fair housing? And if you think we do, why do we need it? So if you don't answer, I'm gonna kind of call on you because I can see all your names. So Tony's showing. I'll come to you, Miss Holly. Tony, why do we need fair housing? Or do we?
Treat everybody equally, and we found that a lot of people are not getting the treatment they deserve.
What sort of treatment do you think you deserve?
To be treated equally.
What do you mean by that? That is a generic statement. Doesn't mean anything to me. And guys, I'm pretty confrontational, so you get over it in a minute. Let's go. Tony, come on.
Yeah, basically equally means giving the same care and opportunities to everybody.
Okay, we'll come to you. Miss Holly, go ahead, ma'am. What do you think?
A level playing field.
How do we level the playing field in your mind?
You see someone as very neutral. You don't judge them by who they are or what they have, just by what they may need, and you help them with that.
Okay, we'll come there. Claire, what do you think?
Only way you can discriminate is financially, so it's kind of, you got to look at everybody fairly, not at anything. I try not to, and I've been on the other end where I've been attacked for no reason at all.
All right.
So, nice feeling.
Okay, let's see. We've got Jay Hubsman. What's the J stand for? Yeah.
Jonathan. Hi.
Jonathan, thank you, sir. Would you like Jonathan or John? Jonathan, go ahead, sir.
It is fine.
Fair housing.
Every human being has a right to equal treatment under the law. There are federal, state, and local laws that protect our access to institutions, transactions across the board. So, you know, initially it's just making sure that no one is denied access, in this case, to property. But it also means that when we're dealing with people, that we also have to take into account protected classes, because there are specific categories of discrimination that have occurred historically. And so we have to be very careful not to cross any of those lines.
Okay, hold the thought. I love that. You said a couple of things. Eugenio, I'm coming to you, so unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. He said, Jonathan said, access. You know, as realtors, I think we are there to open the door. Of course, we are supposed to educate our buyers and sellers about stuff. But what do you think Jonathan meant by access?
I think the only thing that matters here is the color green. That's it. You know, it doesn't matter. It's a person, and the field is level no matter what, as long as they show that they can afford to buy a house or rent a house or rent a place. That's all that's in my book.
Okay, so Suzanne, Miss Sweeney here. If we're talking about access, how do you think when it comes to fair housing, you may be accused of violating the law? How do you think? I love Jonathan's word on access. So what do you think that means to you? Eugenio, good job. But what do you think that means when, you know, somebody's denied access?
Simply that somebody might say, I'd like to see houses in this particular area, and I'm hesitant to show them houses, and I lead them in a different direction, steer them. Yep. That's what it was called. So I think access means, like Dino said, they have their ability to buy, they're pre-approved, they're qualified. That should be the only thing that matters.
But let me ask you guys a question, since we are all realtors here. Any attorney or an appraiser here? You can put up your hand. Okay, great. So we are all realtors, so I can narrow the conversation down. Have you ever had the feeling that your fellow realtor is putting up a roadblock? You can't get access to the home. As a realtor, have you ever had called to make an appointment and then felt that you're getting pushback from your fellow realtor? Because sometimes we, go ahead, Claire.
Yes, like yesterday, the other day, I called for something I wanted a preview, and a realtor told me, well, you can just see it online. I want the buyer there, not you.
Pardon me?
I said I was previewing it for somebody.
I heard you. The realtor told you that they wanted the buyer to be present in order for you to have the ability to preview the property.
It was for a family member that asked me to do it for them.
That's outrageous. As an agent who is representing a buyer, you have the right to see the property and then bring somebody along in order to make sure you are doing what they're asking you to do. What do you think, Carol, Miss Lavallee? Is it Laval or Lavallee?
Everywhere you want, honey.
No, it's not everywhere I want. How do you pronounce it?
Lavallee.
Lavallee. Thank you, ma'am. What do you think of what Claire just said?
I think it's exactly right. You know, we're allowed to go by ourselves as brokers or realtors. And if someone stops it, then you should file a complaint. That's all.
All right. What I'm going to ask you to do is we're going to look at part of the reason why we are being scrutinized quite a lot is because of an underground investigation that came out of Long Island, Newsday article, Long Island Divided. If you haven't seen it, you must see it. Shame on all of us. So we're going to watch a few minutes of that. How many people saw it? So if we've seen it, so I've only had 2 people see it, guys. It's very disappointing because that is why we are getting so much scrutiny from state, to the point now, as of 3 days ago, they put in effect a law that we could be fined or lose our license for violating fair housing, whether or not you did something wrong. So it is important that how we speak to somebody, whether you are having an honest discussion with me or not, whether you're trying to qualify me, it's all about how you're doing it. Fair housing is about my emotion, whether it's wrong or right, whether or not you are explaining to me properly what needs to be done. Fair housing is about how I felt. So for example, if I'm talking to Holly, Holly's answering my questions, but how she's answering them, I could take it the wrong way. Meanwhile, she's just trying to explain to me what my expectations should be. My feelings are all about fair housing. So guys, it's not because you've got your paperwork done correctly. It's how I felt during my discussions with you. And did I feel you were talking to me, at me, or down at me? So you guys have to keep that in mind. So we're going to get started. I'm going to show a few snippets of the Long Island Divided video. It's about, I'm going to show only 5 or 7 minutes of it. It is 45 minutes. It is important that you take a minute to look at that. And then we will begin the process. I'm going to go through some slides, but I will come back and forth to discuss. So do we have any questions regarding the expectations of what we should be looking at, right? Okay, so let me go ahead and share my screen. And if you don't mind, you can mute yourself. If you have a question, just unmute and I'll stop. If you want to put a question in the chat, Jesse or Lisa will get to me and I'll answer them for you. Do you have any questions before I begin? Cool. All right, so we're going to go. All right, let's do this. Sure, all righty. Can you all see my screen sort of? You can see the screen, we're good? I need to know. Okay, fine, thank you. All right, my disclaimers are on here. As I said, this is a safe space. We are gonna talk for the next 3 hours or so. We're gonna discuss fair housing, examples, whatever we've got. I forgot to mention, we are all affiliated with different firms. So we are not gonna be talking about any sort of commissions, etc. So we're gonna keep the discussion pretty clean. I also want you to consider these questions because I'm gonna end the class maybe 15 minutes ahead and I'm gonna expect answers to this after. So are you a fair housing agent? And how are you? What are you doing to show me or others that you are a fair housing agent? In terms of what systems do you have in place now that are working and, you know, enhancing your business and showing to us that you are a fair housing agent? And also, how are you implementing this in your daily business? How are you interacting with people? And how do people know that you're actually an honorable, you know, ethical agent here? I think it's important that we consider these things when we do our business, when we talk to each other, and how we are communicating with each other. So this is important. This is the Long Island Divided video. I'm going to play a few minutes on that. Let me know if you're seeing the screen or not, and then we'll get started. So I need you to either yes, put your hand up, not seeing it, but let's see if that works for us and you hear it. Do you see it? Do you hear it?
Yeah. So,
I hear you, but I don't hear anything coming from the video.
It's about 10 after 2, and I'm in my car.
So it's Richard Helling testing as
A little low, Dorothy.
third. Hello. Hi. My name is Kelvin too. How you doing? Yes, Kelvin. Yeah, me and my wife is looking to purchase a home within the Brooklyn area.
They were ordinary Long Islanders.
Right. Maybe go get some more then, okay?
And we sent them to meet with real estate agents to ask about buying their first home.
Nice to meet you. Thank you. Good? Good. Thank you. I'm David. Thank you.
They were trained, confident, and followed scripts.
Tag in Stephen Macropolis as Nicholas Parisi.
They had no idea what houses agents would suggest, or even which communities.
You're not gonna like those schools, but you don't want to go there. It's a mixed neighborhood. Mixed neighborhood.
If agents are courteous and professional, how can you know that they're treating you equally compared with someone of a different race or ethnicity?
I have to say it without saying it, you know.
Behind smiles and handshakes, how do you know if they're giving you fewer options or suggesting different areas?
I'm not going to send you anything more unless you don't want to store your car to buy your friend.
Or that rules don't apply to you and another home buyer in the same way.
Yeah, okay. I definitely need that.
Long Island is one of America's most segregated suburbs. Newsday set out to discover what role real estate agents might play in keeping it that way, potentially affecting the quality of lives.
Technically, as a real estate agent, we shouldn't tell the buyers.
In house hunting, it's nearly impossible to see evidence of hidden discrimination. You would never know unless you go undercover.
In one test, Johnny Mae Alston was the black tester and Cindy Parry was the white tester. And they met with Anne-Marie Quealy-Bichon at Signature Premier Properties office in Cold Spring Harbor. They asked for the same thing. As often happens, the agent discussed getting pre-qualified or pre-approved for a mortgage by a bank, showing how much a buyer can spend on a house.
Pre-qualified, I mean, that's my husband working with somebody in a bank. We've done some preliminary talks, about getting pre-approval.
Neither had been pre-approved or pre-qualified. Here's what the agent told the black tester.
so I really need that. I won't take out any loan unless I do have a pre-qualification letter. So I need to. So that means I can't pre-qualify for a mortgage. Oh, so that means I can't go out to see anything. I won't do it. You can try another person, but I don't have the time.
And without pre-approval, here's what the agent told the white tester.
What is your availability? When can you start looking at this? I would say not this coming week.
Cindy received 79 listings from this agent. Johnny May couldn't get any listings. And Cindy, the white tester, received 2 home tours. They had the same finances, the same budget, and they made the same request in the same area. But one was white, the other was black. The agent treated them differently. Queely Bichon did not respond to a letter, calls, and emails. Her agency, Signature Premier Properties co-owner and 2 branch managers viewed the recordings and declined to comment.
A 3-year undercover Newsday investigation revealed evidence of widespread hidden discrimination by real estate agents brokering home sales across Long Island. For Hispanic home seekers, evidence of unfair treatment emerged 39% of the time. For Asians, the rate was 19%. Black house hunters in the investigation risked unequal, lesser access to homes and communities just about half the time when compared to white buyers. Kelvin Toon is a black man in his early 50s, and he went in to meet with an agent involving a test in the Brentwood community, a community that is 80% Hispanic and black. The agent communicated to Kelvin, our black tester, that he enjoyed meeting with clients from the Brentwood area.
Every time I get a new listing in Brentwood or a new client, I get so excited because they're nice people.
When we sent Kelvin's counterpart in to meet with the same agent, the white tester was actually warned about Brentwood not being a nice place.
The nursing home we need to be near is in Brentwood.
Okay.
And so we found a couple that are in Brentwood.
Pretty close to each other.
Okay. And it just seemed like those would be handy also for going to visit.
Do you want to give me them and I'll look into them for you? Or?
Yeah, I can do that.
That warning came later to the white tester saying there was concern about gang activity going on in Brentwood. This agent wanted the white tester to know, but that information wasn't provided to Kelvin, the black tester. The listings centered black tester Kelvin in Brentwood with 27 house listings, while the white tester got 0 listings in Brentwood and was directed towards much whiter neighborhoods. Vickery said she had warned only the white tester about gang activity because she had not been aware of it when she met with the black tester, despite widespread media coverage. She also said her business partner, Gene Gillen, sent the listings to the black tester. Gillen said the listings were unquestionably prepared based on Vickery's criteria, and that Vickery may have sent the listings using Gillen's email. She said she didn't know the race of the black tester until she met him later on a house tour. Keller Williams, which was their employer at the time, released this statement. Keller Williams does not tolerate discrimination of any kind. All complaints of less than exemplary conduct are addressed and resolved. Newsday conducted 86 tests that matched white and black, white and Hispanic, and white and Asian buyers. We focused on...
Okay. What we are going to, I just wanted to show a few clips of that just to get a sense of why we are being judged so much and what you think maybe the discussion could be about. Based on that short little script, it'll give you an idea of what the entire 45 minutes was about. As realtors, we had buyers come in and come with same criteria and were given separate treatment, different types of treatment. Does this happen to us? We're in Westchester, or Long Island, or in Rockland, or Orange, in the Bronx, or Manhattan. What happens when we have a buyer come in and they may have criteria or looking for something that we're not sure how to handle? Whose policy? How many of you have a policy that, you know, unless you have a pre-approval, I will not take you out? Nobody here?
Well, one thing that I wanted to say is that right now, you can't even show houses in, at least in my area, unless you have a pre-approval. Listing agents aren't even approving showings unless you show them a pre-approval in all the COVID forms.
Well, my question for you is that who made that policy out?
I have no idea.
So now, if I'm saying you can't show my property without the pre-approval, and I have received that same crap from our fellow agents, I just tend to say, whose policy is that? And when they say it's the homeowners, I request it in writing. Then they don't have it. So why are we putting up barriers to access? Am I saying, Marcy, that you have not done your job in making sure your buyer is qualified before you waste your time with them? Who am I to make that judgment call? But because we don't push back, we think it's okay.
I mean, I was under the impression that since we moved, you know, into phase, it seemed like it came about when we moved into phase 2, that we had the NISAR forms that we needed to provide. We needed to provide the health questionnaires. And then it became, okay, well, we want to see the pre-approval as well, because I was under the impression that it was to weed out the tire kickers and that sellers only wanted people who were actually qualified to purchase the home to be coming through the home, to limit the number of people in their home environment that might be exposing them to COVID.
Okay,
I thought that that's why people were doing it.
I'm going to stop you right now, Miss Marcy, because I'm dizzy just watching you. I'm talking. I'm done.
I'm not walking anymore.
I appreciate that. No, well, we can do that in terms of trying to screen out the number of people coming through the property so that we do not spread COVID.
Right.
Okay. Well, that may be a good enough reason, but again, if that's the case, then it is an instruction, and it is a lawful instruction from the seller. As an agent who is now implementing this, you might want to get that in writing from your seller, don't you think?
Okay.
Because then if I am the one calling to make that appointment, and look at me, I'm Black, I could also take it a bit further and say, Marcy, you're just not allowing me in because of my race.
Gotcha.
There are so many ways to violate fair housing without meaning to. So if we're going to put stuff in place that's going to limit access, even though the reason behind it is good, get it in writing. So that I can go into the MLS, see it in the doc section, and then call it a day and call it. Anybody else have a comment to make about that video before we move on, or were you comfortable with the processes that they used? Moving on. You can go back to walking. I'm not talking to you anymore. Thank you. Okay, so we're going to talk a bit about the Federal Fair Housing Act. Just so you all know, this is the Civil Rights Act of 1866 that came into play. Foundation upon which we have, you know, the definition of race or color. 1866 covered race. So if any of us violate, and I have to go to the part where I said because I'm Black, because if you violate color, if I violate, you know, I keep seeing Marcy here or Holly, and I'm going to assume you're white. If I violate them and they say, well, Dorothy, you didn't want to work with us because we're white, that's straight 1866. If a complaint is filed against you for that violation, you cannot go to federal, or you cannot go to local or state court. It's a straight up, you know, federal violation. And with that comes with a $no limit in terms of, you know, penalties or a fine. You could lose everything. So we need to know that when 1866 came into play, covered race or color, that was very much protected highly at the federal level. Even though at the local level it's there, we also need to make sure we understand that at the federal level, they take it a little bit more seriously. And that's why we are having a lot of scrutiny when it comes to fair housing in New York State. It's all over the country, but New York State is under major scrutiny. The Fair Housing Act covered religion, national origin, you know, of course, sex, gender, covered familial status, disability, and many others. So we are going to talk about them all in depth, but right now I'm just going to go over just to be able to address a few things, and we will spend time talking about it. Talking about familial status goes to children under 18 in the home, and then whether or not there are any exemptions to that. In the class, we will discuss that a bit more. Disability, anything that impacts your walking, sleeping, taking a shower, eating, breathing, anything that affects your ability to live a good life by whose standards, I don't know, is considered a disability. With HUD, some of their definitions are there, but disability covers a very, very, very large gamut, and so many things come into play. So we will spend a little bit more time looking for the access requirements, what HUD considers service animals, emotional support, the whole bit. We will discuss that a little bit later on in the class, just so we know what laws will apply to our disabilities here, and also the different protected classes that are out there for us to talk about. So I did mention 1866, which covered race, of course, white, Black, African, you know, Asian, American Indian. They give a whole list of different people in that. We will, you know, address that. We can dig a little bit more into what race covers, my facial definitions, my nose, the size of it, whether it's pointy, whether it's not, and so on and so forth. There are many ways to look at that. How does that affect our business? It really shouldn't. We really shouldn't even be thinking about it. We should be thinking about whether or not you can afford to purchase a home. Some of the cases that I've listed here, Brown v. Board, Plessy Ferguson, all of these affect us in some way because they address equal and separate, you know, segregation, yes or no. How does it affect our ability to do business? The cases listed here, and I think in your handout are all set so that you can click on it, take a quick look at it, and then we can discuss later. But we're not going to beat this to death. We're just going to try to go over and try to get into the meat and potatoes of the class. So there are lots of information just up front, but we're going to spend some time definitely talking steering, blockbusting, redlining, how to try to address redlining, what to do, what not to do, and what else we're supposed to have here. Fair housing poster, I think is one of the things we sent to you. There are some changes as of June 20th, documentation that we have to now take up and do. And if you're not familiar with it, I have it as part of this. It's also one of the links on the handout, so you would be able to go through this and try to get some more information to help you do your business better. Also within our organization, Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors, we do have an organization called Westchester Residential Opportunities. That is our sister organization that does some training for us. But of course, the Human Rights Commission also is very key and important in our business in order to make sure that we are doing the right thing. As agents, I believe we should even be thinking about whether or not, you know, your color matters. Again, as Eugenio said, it's all about the money. Can you afford to buy? You qualified to buy? Let's go show you some properties here. So the Human Rights Commission obviously investigates complaints. Westchester Residential Opportunity is in Westchester, but they have sister organizations in Long Island, Manhattan, Rockland. I mean, I'm sure they can put us in touch with people if we need that, if we have issues that may be coming up that we need to address. So we have options on how we should do our business properly. and why we need to do our business properly. So what we are going to talk about now is why we need fair housing. Bottom line is it's the law. It's the law of the land. It is the right thing to do, because if we do not have some stability in our homes, we have an uncertainty where am I going to put my head down? Where are my children going to stay? How am I going to get to work, schools, etc.? There is a lot of instability with that. So we need to make sure that as agents, we are doing our best to promote housing. We are doing our best to make sure that we are providing good customer service, which means we need to be educating our buyers and sellers. You know, we need to be educating anybody that comes in contact with us, to make sure that we are doing the right thing, we're saying the right thing, and we are making sure that our license is always on the line. So let me ask you a question, ladies and gentlemen. If I came to you, and your proper way is to, of course, ask me some questions, get to know me, discuss what I am looking for and how we can work together. What is your goal here? What is your goal, Sally? Sally, unmute yourself. What is your goal when I come to you as somebody looking to purchase a home?
Well, I look at it as that I'm here to help you find the right place for you to live. So in my business, I instituted a practice that I require for all of my clients. And then I went into explaining the disclosures and how they need to be signed, and fair housing, and how I treat everybody the same. And my license is really on the line.
Okay. So if you are talking to me and you're going to address the fair housing part of you, you're going to address the fair housing, how do you address that with me?
Well, I address it just the same way as I address it with everybody else.
Which is
that with the fair housing, I don't discriminate against color, creed, race, sex, sexual orientation.
Hold on a minute. So let's assume, guys, I'm in first person. So if I ask you a question, you're going to say, Dorothy, that's me. I want to hear how you would say it to me. So if I come to you, and Sally, thanks a lot. That was pretty good, but I want you to think about your answer a minute, because if I'm talking to you, I meet you today. Let's go here. Miss Susan Kopak. Yes, ma'am. If I come to you today, and let's say, currently, do you have fair housing disclosure or disclaimer as part of how you do business when you talk to somebody?
Hi, Dorothy.
Question for you, do you have that before?
The answer is yes, we do.
Okay, good. So go ahead. What do you tell me if I come into your office?
Okay, so we say, hi, Dorothy. I go through what you're looking for, etc. A little bit about you, tell you a little bit about myself, and then say I have a few papers I'd like to go over with you, a few forms. And one of the forms, actually, it's a new form, and it is our fair housing form, which is very critical to how we do business. So I'd like to review this with you and then have you authorize it, that we just got.
Question for you. I appreciate it.
Wait a minute, Dorothy.
Wait a minute.
If you have any questions.
Hold on. I appreciate that. That's great. But why am I doing this form now? Why?
Okay. Well, when we first meet, it's very important for you to know, first of all, with whom I'm working for. So I want to go through the agency disclosure.
Stop. I want you to stick with fair housing.
Okay.
Because you've just mentioned to me, guys, and I'm going to say, hold on. How many of you know the form? Shame on you. There's 6 of you who put up your hands, outstanding. The rest of you who didn't put up your hands, not cool. Because this form is required as of June 20th. Required. So please, if you're not familiar with it, use it. I use it in conjunction with the agency form and COVID. Non-negotiable, ladies and gentlemen. So go ahead. I know you mentioned it. So now my question is, why the heck do I need to know that? Go ahead. Stick with fair housing. Thank you, ma'am. Go ahead, Susan.
All right. I'll just stick with fair housing.
Yes, ma'am.
Well, unfortunately, in the past, I'm a former social studies teacher. I'm in real estate 40 years, but prior. So I've lived a long time, a lot longer than you have, Dorothy. And I want to tell
Now
you.
that's patronizing. I'm pissed.
Okay.
You see how you
Well, you
just
look a little
offended
younger
me?
than me.
Wait. Do you see how you just offended me?
Because
you were saying something that was honest, that was wonderful, was good for you, but I'm annoyed now. You patronized me.
Well, I'm sorry.
There you go. You see how easy it is to violate fair housing. You didn't mean to. You were just making conversation, guys. It's just that simple. I'm busting your chops, guys. I'm being extreme. Let's keep it going. Sorry, Susan.
Okay.
Go ahead, Susan. I'm sorry.
That's perfectly okay.
Yes, ma'am.
It's very important to understand in the past how people were discriminated against. I myself have seen it. I traveled when I was young. I've seen it traveling to Florida many times. And I have, maybe I shouldn't say this, Dorothy, but I have.
You shouldn't say that.
I have handicapped children. So
I'm cutting you off. I'm cutting
okay.
you off. Guys, the reason why I'm cutting her off is she's saying too much. Can we keep it simple? Somebody want to give it a shot? Miss Vicky. Susan, you are talking way too much, and that's a problem with us realtors. We want to establish rapport. We want to get to know you. We need to keep it real simple. Yes, Miss Vicky, how do you want to do this?
So basically, I would say that I have the form in front of me, and I would just explain that I treat everybody fairly and honestly, and that's what we do with fair housing.
Claire, do you want to give it a shot?
Well, when I meet the people, I give them the COVID first because that's required now. And then when I also send the forms over to them, the new fair housing we just got and whatever needs to be. But when I meet them, I make sure to explain to them that this is required. It's a anti-discrimination. You can't discriminate against anybody. It's for fair housing except for finances, and I don't really.
Why do you have to say except for finances?
Because
what does that have to do with anything?
That's what I was always taught. See,
by whom? You don't need to bring anything extra into it. Why can't you just, before I go there, is it Weiner or Weiner, sir? Unmute yourself. Push the red button. There you go. How do you pronounce your name, sir?
Shimon.
Oh, I only see the last name, Shimon. Okay. So Weiner. If you come to me, and I'm cutting you off, Susan, only because Claire, because you don't need to say that you can discriminate against somebody if they don't have money, because for me, again, that's offensive because I'm being extreme.
No, but I just know, like, you can't go, that's the only thing you can't, like, if you're looking at something that's $900,000, you can only afford 500, I try to, I always make the person pick what they want. That's my thing. Pick their price.
I understand that, and I'm going to come back to you on that. But if you are now explaining this required fair housing form to me, Kevin, how do you explain that form, sir?
I'm not an active agent, so I'm listening.
I don't care. I don't care. It's all about discrimination.
Okay, what's your question?
The question is, if you have somebody like me in front of you and you're trying to explain to me that you do not discriminate, how would I get that from you?
I will give them the form. I will explain it to them that we do not discriminate against nobody, and we treat everybody fair and even.
Okay, I appreciate that. Thank you for answering the question, Miss Sarah. Have you seen the form?
No,
Thank
I have not.
Thank you. You haven't? I'm going to not be happy with you. It's on your link. So I'm going to give you X here. Go ahead, Carol. Thank you, Shimon. You can mute yourself. Thank you, sir. Carol, how do you explain the form to me, love? Unmute yourself.
How do I do it?
Oh, push the microphone again. No, mute yourself, microphone. Push the microphone. Carol, answer my question. That's okay.
I can only say I've listened to everybody. I thought I heard everything as far as myself. When people come in, I have to tell them that I'm here, I've been doing this for a long time, and I have forms to show you, to prove to you that I treat everyone that comes in my office.
Why this form though? Holly, why
There's a
this
fair
form?
housing form by the government that.
That's not a good enough explanation though. That's not a good enough explanation. Because the government said you need to put this out, you're putting it out, you're not explaining it to me. Why this form?
Because there is problems with discrimination. So we need to work better and harder to show everyone that we're not discriminating.
So now again, I appreciate that, but that's not a good enough reason for me to use this form. Josephina, why this form? Have you seen the form? Unmute yourself, unmute yourself. Yes, ma'am. Thank you, Carol. Like I said, I'm gonna beat you guys up for 3 hours, then you can all go away. Sorry.
Yes, I have seen the form. I have used it already. And we just have to make sure that we make everyone aware of the fair housing rules of discrimination and how we cannot discriminate anyone based on financial, race, color.
Hold it. The same way I beat up on Susan here.
Not financial, not financial.
Go ahead.
Yes. So we don't discriminate in color, familiar status.
Is it possible to say that, listen, Josephina, I'm working with you. I thank you for working with me. This is a form in addition to the, the agency form that I have to do now to let you know that I am not allowed to discriminate against you at all. I'm here to provide a service. Do you have to list the classes? No, it's already listed for them. It's already listed, but you need to let me know that, hey, Josephina, I'm glad to be working with you. This is terrific, but I also need to have you understand that based on this form, that you will not be discriminated against. We are here to see property. I'm going to show you anything that you want to see wherever you want to see it. And if you have any issues, there are links in here you can file a complaint. But I practice my business where we do not discriminate, period. I do not expect you to discriminate against me, and I will extend you the same courtesy. How simple is that? How simple is that? Put your point across without saying a whole lot. Because when we start talking a lot, we trip up. Then we say things like, I've been here for 39 years. You're not as old as I am. I've been around the block. Who cares? I don't care. If you know me, give me the facts and let me move on. Sort of your agency explanation. We're not going to go into that. That's not why we're here. But if you give it to me in a size that I understand, because again, fair housing is based on my emotions. It's not that you're doing something wrong. It's not that you said something wrong. It's how I took what you're saying. Did I take it the right way? Or did I just not do, like what you said? So we need to be careful about that. Also, the other thing we need to be careful about is how we communicate with everybody. Are you communicating with everybody the same way? Are you communicating with us based on the fact that, okay, Dorothy, you're not qualified to spend $900, you can only afford $500. We need to stay within that category based on what you're approved for. Or, Dorothy, you can't afford that kind of a house. How are you discussing it with me? And how am I taking the conversation that you're having with me? So we need to be careful about that. But that form is required. So if you're emailing out your buyer applications, your agency, your COVID, and your fair housing, I suggest you email all of them. And if you have an email signature, attach the forms to your email signature. They're attached to mine. So every email that goes out to everybody, the forms are there. Just click on a link, you get right to it. So my disclosures are made in my email to everybody. Going back to our protected classes, we are going to talk about race or color. How, if you are in real estate, are you, right now that we are in this very difficult times here where everything is very, very wired, and people are very super sensitive about what we say, how we say it, and to whom. Race is now a supercharged point here. You can't really say much without making me mad. Yeah. Everybody's upset about something. Everybody's upset about how you are saying things. So when it comes to race, when it comes to real estate and race, are you sensitive about it, or do you even care? Somebody want to try to answer that? Do you care? Go ahead, Miss Marcy. Thank you.
I stopped walking. All right.
Yes,
So
ma'am.
this is actually a subject very near and dear to my heart because I'm very much aware of environmental injustice as much as racial injustice because I'm a climate activist. So I know how much that low income people are already in areas of a lot of pollution. So I'm very sensitive to where people can afford to live based on their income and how the environment around them affects them. So yeah, that's something that I'm always looking for if I'm working with somebody that is a lower income to make sure.
Hold on, but you're talking about income.
Yes.
Are you equating income to race?
No, not.
So my question was on race.
Oh, sorry.
No, stay. My question was on race. If you're working with me and you all see me, I'm black. I'm going to be Jewish in a minute. Black Jewish person. What the heck? Who cares? But when we hit national origin, we'll discuss that. With regards to race, does it affect how you deal with somebody today in this climate?
I like to treat, I do treat everybody equally, regardless. Okay. I'm going to probably be very sensitive to what is happening to people of color because of what is going on, but that's not going to interfere with how I treat you as a client in terms of what you're looking to accomplish, whether that be to sell or buy.
Okay. That's a good answer. I need a little bit more. And let's see, Jonathan, what do you think? Thanks, Marcy. You can keep walking. Jonathan, what do you think? In this climate, when you're doing business with me and I'm black, does that affect you in any way based on this current climate?
Meaning the climate of the last 6 months?
Oh, God help us all. Yeah.
Okay. Well, I think it sort of goes back to what you were saying earlier, which is that your experience of fair housing is based on how you feel. And so I think that everyone has to be approached as an individual, where you're looking, what your priorities are, what's important to you, the fact that you've chosen to come to me and that you want to work with me. I'm always trying to find out how I fit best with someone who is looking for a home. If I don't know something that's important to them, maybe a particular area, then really it's just about trying to make sure that I can serve the person in front of me as well as possible. And so
my question becomes to all of you. I want to be in a black area. Juliana, I don't see you, you're in the dark. I want to be in a black area. And that's a criteria for me. Because now I'm telling you that because of what's going on, I want to be in the black area. We are underserved. We're just not happy. I'm not happy. I want to see, listen, I'm being extreme. I'm being a little wacky, but I want you to answer my concern and address it with the fair housing mindset. How would you address somebody like me if I'm militant and I want to be in a black area? Hold the thought. Juliana, yes, ma'am. And I'll come to you, Suzanne. I see you. Julianne, I see you, Suzanne. Juliana.
I would find out all of the criteria you're looking for as what you want in a house. And
okay,
I would
hold
have
on.
you.
Let me give it to you. I want 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths. I want to spend $650. I want a good school district, but I want to make sure there's a lot of black people in the neighborhood.
I would start off with what county you want to be in, and then I would just send everything that fit that criteria in that range, that price range.
Okay.
My kids are in the background.
No, that's okay. I'm going to let you go in a minute. So let's do this again. Which community, which county are you in? Which county are you in?
Orange County.
Okay, so you're in Orange County. So where? Yeah, let's say Warwick or Goshen or.
I'm more towards Newburgh. So.
Okay, yeah, Newburgh. I was there last night. So let's say, I'm telling you right now, I'm gonna spend about $450, 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, but I wanna be, you know, in a good school district, but I wanna be in an area where, you know, I wanna be around Black people. And your answer to me is you're gonna send me anything that fits my criteria. Do you think that's a great answer or not?
Well, I would probably, being that it's Newburgh, I would do town and city. I would include both.
Okay, I'm gonna have you mute because you still didn't answer my question, and I want you to think about it because I don't like your answer. Let me tell you again. I want 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, whatever, school district, and I want to be in a community of Black people. I am still looking for a good answer from you. Think about it. You can mute for 30 seconds. I'll come back. Suzanne, go ahead.
That's discrimination. You're asking me to discriminate in a
So
reverse.
answer my question. Answer my question, Dorothy.
The question is, I can certainly find you a property that 3 bedrooms, 2 bathrooms in a good school district. I'll send you the information, but that's all I can do. I can't tell you if they're black or white or green or yellow.
There are no green people. That's discriminatory, just so you know. But okay, I get you. I kind of like your answer. I just need you to shut me down. Somebody shut me down. Shut me down. Go, shut me down.
All right, Dorothy.
Hold on, Marcy. Is it Shauna or Shania?
It's Shanae.
Shanae, my apologies.
That's okay.
Stop walking. You're walking aloud. Yes, ma'am. Dorothy?
So I'm not an active agent either, but I think that my answer would be is that I can send you properties that that fit your criteria: bedrooms, bathrooms, school district. I am unable to you know, talk about what areas are Black or not Black, but demographic information is absolutely available online.
I need a better answer. You are on track. You are right there. Shut me down. Marcy, shut me down. I'll come to you, Carol. You are on track. I love the answer, but I need you to definitively shut me down because we talked briefly about the anti-housing discrimination form, which are not active. You and Shemin are not active, and I get that. But again, you don't have to be active to shut me down. You don't. Right. So, guys, first person, it's Dorothy, and then I'll move on. Marcy, give it a shot. Dorothy.
All right. Dorothy, great criteria. I have some really great information that I'd like to send you. I know you talked about good school districts. I have like 3 or 4 links that they've done studies about different districts. Look at those. I also have great information I can send you for demographics. So why don't you?
No. You are just digging yourself into a hole. Carol, go ahead. Carol.
Everybody's saying everything right, except we're not allowed to steer you to certain areas.
I want you to, guys, let's do this again. And I'm being super aggressive. Holly, I'll come to you. You're just dying over there. She put up 2 hands. I love it. Guys, I want you to shut me down because I need to know, and I'll tell you how I shut everybody down. Go ahead, Carol. I don't like your answer either. It was not even close to say that you're not allowed to steer, blah, blah. We all know that. But how are you going to let me know that's not your business, Holly? And I'll come back to you, Susan. Well done. Holly, go. Come on. Yes, ma'am. Dorothy, that's me. Yes, ma'am.
By law. It's as simple as that. By law, as an agent, I'm obligated to show you everything that may be available.
You didn't shut me down, though. I'm still going to keep coming at you with, I don't want to be with Black people. I don't want to be near people with wheelchairs. I don't want to be near short people. I am coming at you because you didn't shut me down. Suzanne, let's go. Thank you, Holly. And then I'll stop it. Okay.
I would say, Dorothy, I can help you with everything, but I cannot help you with any color.
Oh, why not? Why not, Suzanne? I like you.
It's discrimination. It's discrimination.
Why can't you say, you're going to be the bad agent right now, you know, bad buyer. And I'm the agent. I say, hey, Suzanne, it's great to be working with you. I heard your criteria, but I don't do business that way. My business is not to discriminate. I'm happy to show you properties that fit your criteria, but I do not discriminate, period. That's not how I do business.
You did that well.
Shut me down. I want you to shut me down every time, because if you don't shut me down, like I said, I'm coming back to Holly saying, okay, it's not just, yeah, whatever. I heard you, but you know, are there short people in this area? You didn't shut me down definitively. Shut me down. You're not allowed to discriminate. I get that because you gave me the form, but why didn't you say it? I expect you, when it comes to fair housing, to not see any gray. I want you to say, I don't do business like that. That is not my business model. And the law will not allow me to do that. Absolutely adding to what Holly said. It was perfect. But I wanted Holly to tell me that's not how she does business. That's not her business model. She will show me property that I want, but it's not her business to discriminate, period. So if that's what I'm looking for, I've got the wrong agent in Holly. Go away, Dorothy, not working with you. That's okay, because I could be a tester. And you didn't shut me down, is all I'm asking for. So we're gonna go leave race for a minute, and then we're gonna go to religion or national origin that came into place in the amendments 1968. Religion or national origin. So if I'm Jewish, that's a religion that maybe out in Orange County or Rockland, we have situations where areas you have some issues going on, block busting, where communities are coming in. So certain communities are being discriminated against heavily in that area. Whether or not that's the case, when it comes to religion or national origin, where I come from, I'm from Ghana, West Africa, but I have clients who are from Mexico, Puerto Rico, Spain. Does it matter how you deal with me? Or again, realize if I'm from Spain and I'm looking for property here, I don't necessarily understand the rules of purchasing homes here in the US. So I may need a little bit more education. So my religion or national origin should be protected. When it comes to our fair housing laws, we do have the federally protected classes. We do have additions from local governments and additions from state governments. We need to be aware of all of them. I just think when it comes to fair housing and our business, because I am a realtor, I just don't look at anything unless you can't afford to buy. If you can't afford to buy, let's move on. But I will educate you as to why you can't afford to buy, but I just will not dismiss you. Because again, the complaint comes, well, you know, Marcy, I was talking to Marcy and she just told me I couldn't afford to buy and then never returned my phone call again. That's a complaint. Why did you do that? It just becomes a whole mess. So we need to be able to understand in our communication with everybody else, how are we doing it and is it in our best interest? So we've had right now 1866 that covers race or color. We've added 1968 where we had religion or national origin. Those are your federally protected classes. Adding 1974, another amendment came into play that covered sex or gender. You know, we have within our NAR Code of Ethics, National Association of Realtors Code of Ethics, Article 3-7, which we will address at the end, and Article 10. Article 10 covers the protected classes and the fair housing laws in our Realtor Code of Ethics. Listed in those protected classes, we have gender identity, we have sexual orientation, we have lots of different things that we need to be aware of in terms of any discriminatory practice that may come about. So again, what we have now is if I come to Eugenio, yes, you think I'm a girl, right? But here you are, I'm asking you to address me as Mr. Jensen. How are you going to do that? Looking at me, and I'm saying to you, when you see me, are you going to say, hi, Ms. Botso or Ms. Jensen? Or how would you address me in a way that I would not find offensive? Because it's like a girl, right? Go ahead, sir.
Well, if I'm confused, I'll ask you, how would you like me to address you?
Outstanding. That's my policy moving forward now. Where I meet Holly and I see Holly is a beautiful young lady, I don't immediately go to Miss Holly. No. My greetings are, how may I address you today? Because Holly may want to be called Tommy. That's okay. I just need to know how to address this person in front of me, because we know all of that is protected in our NAR Code of Ethics, Article 10. So there's a whole list of things that are in there that we need to be aware of. So all communication with everybody needs to be, again, as you said, Eugenio, based on how that person wants to be addressed. Absolutely well said. How may I address you today? How do you want me to, how do you want to be addressed today? So we just need to be very aware of that in our communications with each other. I have spent some time on our protected classes. So do we have any questions? Or, wow, it's 10:36, it's an hour. So I'll give us another 15 minutes and I'll give you a break. Is that okay? And then we'll take a quick break. Okay, so we're gonna keep it moving and go talk. Do you have any questions? No, moving on. We'll come back, a few more things to talk about. So.
I don't have a question, Dorothy.
Go ahead.
But I wanted to tell everybody who's not that familiar with the form is that you better make sure you have it on your website, your social media.
I'm getting there. I'm getting there. It's gonna come up.
All right.
It's, oh, no. We're not getting away from that form. It's coming up. So we need to be, and it's towards the end so that I can hit us all hard on that. So it's coming up. So we want to look at the languages that we use within our MLSs and what we use to differentiate property. We have mother-daughter. We had a huge discussion on the NAR Hub, one of these sites, and it was just insanity. How you can't say mother-daughter anymore because somebody was saying, what happened to father-son? How you cannot walk to anything anymore? What if I'm in a wheelchair? We have gotten a little cuckoo with being politically correct, but I understand how that would affect somebody. So we need to be very clear. We said millennials welcome. What do you mean? If I'm not in that millennial category, am I welcome to look at the property? Can I see the property? Can I have access to the property? If you say perfect for downsizers, are you telling me the people in the home are older? Or maybe the family moved away, so they're looking for a smaller space. The neighborhood is changing. What the heck kind of statement is that? What are we talking about? We say a lot of things that leave room, and I'm gonna come here real quick because I wanna talk to you guys real quick. When you look at our MLS, I think in the last 4 days, I have received listings because people know me. They send me listings that say no children allowed in the property. Like seriously, what's wrong with that? And it's in our MLSs. So the language that we are using in the MLS to describe the property, we need to be very aware of. When you see downsizers, what does that mean to you? Tell me, what does that mean to you? If you see that somebody's downsizing, what does that mean to you?
Smaller home.
Unmute yourself, babe. Tony, Sean. Push the microphone. Yes, ma'am. What does that mean to you when it says perfect for downsizers?
It's telling you that you're steering towards older people.
Okay. Do we agree with that? You cannot. Okay. Or maybe not. What do you think, Holly? When it says perfect for downsizers, what do you think it means?
Smaller homes.
It's a smaller home, so that's for her. That's good. Some people would look at it that way. All right. Let's talk a little bit about steering because that was mentioned before by Carol. Susan, Miss Kopak. Is that okay? Yeah, right. I'm bad. Susan, go ahead. If I come to you, where do you live?
I live in
where?
New City, Rockland County.
Okay, so you're over the bridge, New City, Rockland County, and I come to you, and you know, I want to purchase my home there, and I want to be in, you know, New City in Rockland County, and we're going to talk about steering. Right now, let's just be bad. I want you to be a bad real estate agent. You're going to steer me based on my color, where would you take me?
Dorothy, you really don't want to live in New City.
Oh my God, why not? Oh.
Well, maybe you won't see as many people who look like you as you would like.
Now that is a subtle way of steering, right? Or, you know, because you're not really saying it, but you're saying it. So now let's not steer me out of New City. How would you handle that request?
Well, Dorothy, I live in New City and I've been there many years and been very happy, and hopefully you will be too.
I don't like your answer because it's about you.
Dorothy,
you get me what I want you to talk about anything but you.
Okay, Dorothy, New City is a great town. We're the county seat. We have lots of good shopping. We're close to lots of good services, and it might be a nice fit for you if you take a look at it.
Fantastic. What I want you to try to do is take I out of the conversation. I don't want to know about you. I get it. I think the familiarity is important and you're trying to establish rapport. But I can also take that to be, why is she always talking about herself? Again, we're talking fair housing. How am I taking my communication with you? Again, I said I was going to be extreme in this class. Just have you think about it, but that was a terrific answer the second time around. I love that. Susan, Yona, I haven't had it. Thanks, Susan. Yona, what do you think? If I came to you and I said, you know, I need you to go ahead and let's put some steering here together, and you did not want me to be in a community where you are, Susan did a terrific job of giving an example. What would you say if I came to your area, wanted to buy property, and you were going to steer me out of there?
I would say, well, Spring Valley is a very nice area, as people are very similar to your culture.
Are you steering me into or out of it?
Into.
Okay, so now steering means what? What does steering mean? It means you're taking me out of the area, right?
Guiding them to an area that you think would be appropriate for them.
Outstanding. So if I am in West Nyack and you're bringing me into New City, you're steering me right into an area where you think I'll be most comfortable, very comfortable. That's great. We know that it's not a good thing. We should not be doing it. That's unacceptable. One of the other things that could constitute another violation is where property is available, but you're refusing not only access, but when I present an offer, you are, well, I'll say you are the homeowner refuses to negotiate with me. As the agent that the one is, who's the one getting that offer, how are you handling the communication from another agent? Because I've received a lot more complaints in the past week from agents presenting offers and not getting any response back. Because what has happened when I pick up the phone to talk to the other party, it's, well, you know, I'm sorry, Yona. I've worked with Yona before, and Yona just doesn't know what she's doing. She's wasting my time and she doesn't communicate. So what has happened is I have put Yona in a negative box as opposed to having clear communications with that particular person. So the idea of us as agents, that's why Article 3, Standard of Practice 3-11 came into play where it comes to our code of ethics, was because agents were complaining that we were not communicating well with each other. We were discriminating against each other and not allowing access to properties. So we need to make sure that our communication is not only correct towards each other, but in terms of how we are presenting the information to the general public. So we need to make sure that, I mean, most of us here are aware that you cannot do certain things, but some of us are also set in our way of doing business. I've been doing this 30 years now, but I have adapted and changed a lot of ways with technology and communication and lots of training. But when it comes to fair housing, it is changing at the speed of light, and how we talk to each other is important in terms of getting our information across and we understand what's going on. I just saw it's 10:45. Do you have any questions? Because I'm going to give you a quick 15-minute break. and then we can come back and pick up, because we're going to talk a little bit about who can be sued. We're going to go to a couple of things. We're going to cover our protected classes in terms of our disabilities, service animals, and emotional support animals. Then we're going to go over the new forms real quick. Do we have any questions before I give you the quick break?
Dorothy, I have a real quick question.
Yes,
I'm just curious if anyone has ever felt like an agent has discriminated against your buyers when you present an offer because they have a very specific name that is on the offer that would be indicative that they are a certain race or nationality.
Well, I get those complaints, but then the way I've also suggested in discussion with other classes, other agents, is when we present an offer where we see that may be an issue, we just take the last name off the offer.
Okay.
We just take the last name off the offer. This way you're presenting the terms. Their last name may be on the pre-approval, but the fact that my name may be Jensen doesn't mean I'm white or Scandinavian.
Right.
Or the fact that my name is Lee doesn't mean I'm Asian.
Right.
So the last name doesn't really mean anything unless we have somebody who's focused on that. So it all depends, but a lot of other agents that I've dealt with who've said this have said that they just take the last name off so that they're really just presenting the offer, which would be the terms, the price, closing, and the stuff like that. So you don't have that, but it happens. We just don't know it's happening, but it happens. Anybody else? All right,
Dorothy?
lady. Yes, ma'am.
Dorothy, can I just say, when everybody gets back, if they can please sign into the group chat, that would be very much appreciated.
Okay, see you at, what is it, 11? Is that good? Thank you very much,
Thank you.
guys. All right.
Okay. 15 minutos. Tengo que contestar aquí.
Oh, please feel free to mute yourself. Thank you. And come.
Oh, señor. A ver, el mensaje que dejó es:
Carl's. Ooh, is it hot out there? Yes. Can see.
All right, guys, it's 11 o'clock, so let's get to it so that we can all go on with it. So what we are going to be addressing now is who can get complaints filed against them and what we mean by these. Okay, so here we go. For those, everybody sign into the box again per Lisa and Jessica, please. If you just
Yes,
got back
please.
yeah.
Yes,
So-
please sign in the group chat. Thank you.
All right. Okay, so we're gonna go share our screen. Who can have a lawsuit or a complaint brought against them? This would be a real estate agent, management or leasing company, a landlord. Bottom line is anyone who touches a real estate transaction. So it could be an appraiser, could be a title company. Why a title company? A title company could refuse to insure property in an area where maybe they think that There are a lot of minorities. So, you know, the values are going to go down. They may not want to insure title. So this is just a list of some of the people who can get complaints brought against us. Pretty much all of us, you breathe and talk real estate, here's a complaint in your future. So we've got to be very, very understanding of that. Now, evidence of discrimination. We spent some time talking through some scenarios that have been a little difficult, but part of the class. What I want you to understand is when you're treating people differently, but you think you're treating them the same, where we have disparate treatment is where there's direct evidence that you're treating me differently. You're not treating me the same as you would treat any other person that may come into your office, whether it's based on any of the protected classes, which would be race or color, religion, national origin, sex, you know, gender, familial status, disability. So if you're giving me, extending disparate treatment to me, then there's clear evidence that you are treating me differently. Now, how is that translating into an impact on the community that you are now affecting or treating differently? Could be a lot of different things. Could be based on the fact that I am just not understanding what's going on. I am not happy with what's going on in terms of treatment, and how can we remedy this? We spent some time talking about steering. And these are some of the ads that are still online that you can see from the past, but maybe some of us are not wearing the hood now, but there is still some classification that's made to realtors in certain areas if you're showing property in an area where they are not completely willing to integrate the community. So what's our job as realtors? Continue showing property in areas as long as the person can afford to buy. You're not a gatekeeper. We open the property up to everybody. And again, we will be called what it will be, but your job is to make sure everybody has access to the property. These are just some of the definitions that I found on there, and I thought this was important because we have racial steering. We have steering in so many categories, but racial steering. And now, because we are having this heightened awareness to people of color, Black lives, whatever the heck we want to call it, whatever the issues are, now there is a focus on that. So the 1968 Act, because it covered, you know, 1866 covered, you know, race or color, and then an amendment, which was the Act of 68, also added religion, national origin, sex, familial status, disability, and the protected classes. We need to be aware that race or color is an issue. So we need to be clear to not violate any of that. We may not intentionally violate, but again, I'm stressing this right now, just again, based on the atmosphere that we're living in. These are some of the information, again, that used to be put out there, which was very, very clear on what we could and could not do, what we were allowed to show, what sort of access people had to housing, no access at all, and the classification of Blacks, Irish, whatever, no dogs and so on. Again, going to steering, all the different forms that we have there that's available, and what we need to be aware of and what we can talk about. Now, blockbusting. Blockbusting in terms of, well, what does blockbusting mean to you? What do you think blockbusting is about? What do you think blockbusting is? Anybody?
It's...
Yes, ma'am. Who's that? Suzanne. And then Josephine, I'll come to you. Suzanne, yes, ma'am.
Well, blockbusting, the way I understood it, was when you come into it, when you're trying to break a neighborhood apart. In other words, you're trying to introduce people of a different background, origin, ethnic, into a, say, an all-white neighborhood. That's what would be blockbusting. So you're bringing them in and trying to break up the neighborhood.
Okay, so my apologies. We're back to being in a safe community. We took a break, but we're still within the 3.5 hours, so we're good. So we're a safe zone, so we can speak freely. Josephina, blockbusting, yes, ma'am.
Persuading owners to sell cheap because of fear of other people coming into the neighborhood.
Okay, so a good example of blockbusting would be what? Holly, Go ahead, Miss Holly. What do you think a good example of blockbusting would be? Dorothy, we're still back to
introducing a different type of culture into a neighborhood that is typically one culture. I'm just trying to be proper here in my language.
Let me explain to you guys. This is a fair housing class. I am going to be so improper. As long as you're not using derogatory terms to define somebody, it's a safe space. Yes, it's being recorded, but it is a safe space. So you should know how to be free. So if I'm looking for an example of blockbusting, and we have defined blockbusting as what? Obviously we know it's illegal. Obviously we know that it strikes fear and causes panic selling. If you're introducing somebody of a different culture into my space, I am not running away. I'm not afraid. Panic sell me, folk. Blockbust me. Somebody blockbust. Go ahead, Josephina. Try it. Give me an example.
Mr. Smith, whatever the name is.
Dorothy. Talk to me. First person, Dorothy. Blockbust me.
Yeah. Dorothy, you know, there has been a lot of people of other race moving into the neighborhood, and I don't think this is going to become a safe neighborhood.
Oh my God, I love culture. That's a whole melting pot. No, I'm not afraid. I'm not leaving.
Okay, you're tough.
Blockbusting, Elizabeth, Miss Engeldrum, unmute yourself. Blockbust away. Dorothy.
I think it's when you would list a home and go to all the neighbors and kind of say a certain race or a certain, no?
Go ahead, but I want you to blockbust.
Kind of frighten them into selling and getting something started that if you didn't do that, it wouldn't have been.
Well, I understand that. So what would be a good example of blockbusting, Elizabeth?
Good example. Well, when you go and you tell them a specific race is looking at the home or a particular person is looking at the home.
I'm not afraid yet.
You're not afraid?
Not yet. Sarah. I'll come to you, Elizabeth. Sarah, blockbust. I need a blockbusting example that works for me. Unmute yourself, Sarah. Is she deaf? Okay, we'll leave Sarah alone. Vicky, blockbusting. Yeah, push the button. Yes, ma'am. Example.
Okay.
Yes,
An
ma'am.
Example?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I live in an old white neighborhood, and somebody of color is buying my house. So I go to my neighbors and I tell them, we have to move because this neighborhood is changing.
Okay. Now my question becomes, how's it changing? Okay, Vicky, I am now the one who's gonna blockbust you. Vicky, you know what? Black people are moving into your neighborhood. You have to sell right now. You know, it's changing, right? You're specific and you're violating race. That's blockbusting. Right. Holly, the Puerto Ricans are moving in. You know those people, they're loud music and all that. Blockbusting. That's a violation, and that's the example that instills fear in me and makes me want to move. We know it's illegal, but it causes panic selling. So you, the realtor, are gonna sell the home and you're still gonna sell them something else to move them out. We know it's illegal. We agree. We're good to go. Redlining. I'm gonna show a couple of things. Redlining goes towards financing in terms of providing financial, financing, mortgage financing to a particular area or neighborhood. Let's say it's over a new city, and let's say Dorothy Bank has refused to give loans to New City because it's a high concentration of minorities, or there's a high concentration of foreclosures there. I mean, not that it's just using as an example. I said this is a safe space. So redlining would be affecting that in terms of the ability to give loans in a particular area, so that there will not be, there will be changes to the community, but again, people are not going to have the same access. So we're going to go back to that and then we're going to talk a little bit about source of income also. So I'm going to go back to sharing my screen just so that we would have addressed our blockbusting, which is, of course, encouraging people to sell homes in their particular areas. We know it's illegal. We should not be doing it. We also have redlining, and you see where the red marks are. It's areas where people will not be given. Let me see if I can get a bigger map for you guys. This is part of Chicago, the FHA map. I took this off in 1939, where they had outlined areas where it was discrimination against low income and minority neighborhoods. So where you see all the red, that's what you consider the red market, redlining, and that's what you consider hazardous neighborhoods, where they will not do any real estate marketing. And somebody needs to mute themselves. I'd appreciate that. We also have this particular map, which yesterday one of my associates was looking at. I said, oh my God, that's Brooklyn. These are things that were out there that were not allowed to be done, guys. This is awful, where areas are that you cannot sell property, where they thought it was okay to sell property, and these were actively promoted. All this information is available online, and as offensive as it is to me right now, and for us to talk about, this used to be happening. And does it still happening? Based on the Long Island videotape, guys, it's still ongoing as of now. Also in parts of communities, we are Orange Rock and Westchester Bronx. The fact that it's not been found out yet, does it happen? Hopefully not. But where there's race, where there's a mix of people, something's always going on. And as realtors, we have to be above it. We have to be above it. We do our best to educate the consumer, but more importantly, we educate ourselves. So again, this is a very offensive one, but it's what it is. Let's talk a bit about disabilities. Disabilities, what are our disabilities? We said it's any physical, mental impairment that limits my ability to perform my, as a person, major life functions. So talk about eating, sleeping, walking, jumping, whatever it is that we have to look at. But there are many, many more things that come under the disability category that we may see, may not see, or not aware of. Again, our job is to provide equal service to all. So if I'm on drugs right now, heroin, crack, whatever the drugs are, that's not a disability. There's no protection for that. We also need to understand from HUD that service animals are considered the dogs, and then our disability, they have a wheelchair there. I could be in a walker, I could have those crutches, I could have a lot of disabilities that you don't see. But I'm gonna come back to this right now because I wanna ask you guys, when you're working with somebody, and let's say you do a lot of business in buildings where they have access to ADA, Americans with Disabilities, the ramp or grab bars or whatever. When you're working with somebody in your line of work, is it customary for you to ask if they're looking for any special accommodations at all? Do you ask, or okay, that's good. Do you, well, have you ever thought about asking? Because the fact that I don't look crazy doesn't mean I'm crazy. I'm not crazy, I look normal, guys, but I have 5 personalities. You don't know that? That's not visible to any of you. But think about it. If I don't mention it, you don't ask, which is okay. If I'm in a wheelchair and you ask, do you think you have discriminated? Think about it. Because it's not part of your normal business to ask if I'm looking for any accommodation, and I walk into your office, you don't ask, but I have somebody with me who's in a wheelchair, would you ask if they're looking for special accommodations? You can unmute yourself. Go ahead, Elizabeth. What are you saying? Elizabeth, unmute. Push the microphone. There you go.
Yes, I do think if you saw that, you would ask, are they also with the other person, and will they need any special accommodations in order to enter the residence that they're looking at?
But don't you think you need to extend that to everybody who comes in?
I don't know. That I don't know.
That's a great answer. Thank you, ma'am. Great answer. But think about it. Go ahead, Marcy. Yes, ma'am.
So we have a question on our buyer consultation that is there anyone in the home that will require any special accommodations to help develop a criteria for what it is that we're looking for? So I don't know if that's right or wrong, but I know that it's there.
So why don't you just ask that, would anyone, that's a good question. It's rather wordy, but then would anyone be looking for special accommodations? That's terrific. And that is something I added to my questionnaire. I had to pivot because I never actually thought about it.
Okay.
You know, and I think that as long as you're asking everybody the same, you're protected. It's when you ask one, but not the other. So maybe that's an adjustment, guys, we may make in how we ask people and talk to them, because that's important. Now, with regards to making modifications to a property, if most of us are doing sales, that's rare. But if we are working with rentals or co-ops or stuff that require some modifications to the property, who's responsible for that? Who's responsible for making any sort of modification to a property if a disability request is being asked for? Who's responsible to pay for that? Yes, ma'am. Claire? I'll come to you, Josephina. Claire, go ahead, unmute.
It would be the landlord, whoever owns the property, if you're doing a rental.
Incorrect. Incorrect. If it's a reasonable modification, Josephina, what do you think?
I thought it was the landlord.
Absolutely not.
So it will be the city?
Go ahead, Jonathan. Help us out.
So if it's a reasonable modification, then the tenant or new owner of this co-op would be responsible for making the modification and also removing it at the end of their tenancy.
If it is a reasonable modification, and a reasonable modification can be what? Putting in grab bars in the unit, widening the doors, relowering the counters. This is at tenant's expense. This is at tenant's expense, and it's also at tenant's expense to turn the property back to the condition they received it in from the landlord or landlady. Now, the hallways are the landlord's expense, or if there's a ramp that needs to be put outside, as long as it's not over expensive, the landlord puts it in, but there are organizations that can help the landlord satisfy that request. But any changes to the interior of the property is at tenant's expense, and at tenant's expense to turn it back. So you might want to be looking at how that's done, and that's your reasonable accommodation. An unreasonable accommodation will be putting in an elevator so I can get to the 4th floor, or maybe completely redoing a kitchen to, now that's unreasonable and expecting the landlord to pay that. But putting in a ramp or something, all the common areas under New York state law, any exterior modification or common area modifications are at the landlord's expense. Now, if the landlord doesn't have the money to make these modifications, again, if grant funds are available, they can request them, but they need to be all made at landlord's expense. Let's go to this whole service animals, emotional support and whatnot. What sort of questions do you as an agent think you can ask? If I say to you, I have a service animal, do you have the right to ask questions about the nature of my disability, why I need a service animal, and so on and so forth?
No, you can't.
Go ahead, go ahead. Go ahead, Tony.
No, you can't. What you can ask for is the documentation.
What sort of documentation are you looking for?
It has to be like a doctor, or somebody who's going. It's not going to be a friend who's going to say, I need this animal. It has to be somebody certified that can, because I know for a fact there are any number of people that are getting their little chihuahuas to be emotional support dogs. just because. I have a next door neighbor that's done that. They want to take them to Europe, and they're saying it's an emotional support dog. It's the pet. It's a pet, not a support dog.
A service animal is not a pet.
Right.
Just so we're clear, a service animal, thank you, Yona, absolutely provides a service to that person, and they're doing a job. So absolutely, it's not a pet. So they are in a class all by their own. They are super protected because they are providing a service to that person. Your emotional support is what you're not seeing from me. So I'm a little cuckoo right now, and let's say I have the whole pet lizard thing that curls around my neck and makes me feel wonderful. That's my emotional support. How dare you be judgmental of that thing? Hey, but I can go online and get a little jacket and a waiver for that dog, innit? Or the lizard or whatever it is. Well, thank you, Yona.
That's qualified by going online at this point.
But then why does this put us as realtors? You're saying that you can ask for some sort of documentation. Are you crossing the line? Is there a violation in our future here? What are you looking for?
Somebody who's qualified to give that information, not going online and filling out a form and you get it.
Okay, so now let's just complicate your life. Josephina, do you agree with that? What do you think? Do you agree with what she said, that she's looking for somebody who's qualified to give the paperwork or documentation that this particular animal serves a purpose?
Yes, if his pet's not allowed, yes.
But it's not a pet.
That is for emotional support, yes.
How is an emotional support animal a pet? It's providing a service to my disability. So how is that a pet? And I think the bigger question I'm trying to ask you is, how are we making ourselves liable to collect documentation when you're not a doctor or anything? What documentation are you looking for? So if I come to you and I have, again, this lizard, which is my support animal, you're looking for a doctor's note saying that okay, let's assume I gave you a doctor's note. Are you looking for the note before you show me the property or after you show me the property?
I think it should be, you should ask if there are any pets that you have in case the property doesn't allow certain pets. And then if they state that it's an emotional pet, then you could ask for some documentation.
So Elizabeth, my question then becomes, are you getting the documentation before or after you show me the property?
Probably after, because you don't know if they're even going to like what you're showing them. When they make a decision, perhaps, then you should ask.
Okay. Who agrees with that answer? Only one person agrees with that answer. So let's go to Susan. Marcy, did you put your thumbs down? I'll come back to you. Miss Kopek. Susan, please. What, Elizabeth, thank you. Susan, you didn't like her answer that after she shows the property, then she can ask that question? What do you think?
It's my understanding.
Yes, ma'am.
With the ADA, you cannot ask, and there's documentation is not required.
So what's your position on showing the property? Would you show the property?
Yes, I would.
Okay. All right. So then you agree with her. You just didn't put up your hand. Marcy,
no, I'm sorry. My husband was talking to me for a minute. I'm sorry.
I saw him walk in the room. We see what's going on. Thank you, Susan. I appreciate it. Marcy, why don't you agree with her answer?
Well, the reason why I said I wouldn't ask for it after the fact, after I showed them the property, because let's say I showed the property and the person happened to be Black, and then I asked for the documentation and they couldn't provide it, and then I could go back and say, well, you didn't provide documentation, so you can't have the apartment.
Hold it. I want you to stick with my emotional support. Don't put my color in there. Just stick with the emotional support. My question was, You're so funny. My question was, guys, would you ask for the documentation before or after? Elizabeth and Susan both said after. Who agreed with that? Was my response. And you disagreed with that because I only had one. Suzanne and Eugenio, I'll come. Suzanne, go ahead, ma'am.
Well, we see so many things in MLS that say no pets. Now, certain complexes, you can't have pets. Certain owners don't want to have pets. I'm one of them. I'm a landlord. I don't want to have pets, and it's a complex where pets are not allowed. So I would have to find out ahead of time if, again, if they have an animal, a pet, and they tell me ahead of time, because a lot of them say
it's
no
not
pets.
a pet. We are not talking about pets.
But
We
you're
are not
asking
talking about
when am I
pets.
going to ask? When am I going to ask? Okay, you're saying about a service animal,
I'm
correct?
talking about service animal and emotional supports. They are not pets. They have a carve out, and they can be in any property where no pets are allowed. They have a carve out and protection. So no pets does not apply to any of that.
So then you can ask ahead of time.
Yes, ma'am, you cannot. You can feel free to go ahead and ask certain questions, but you cannot ask ahead of time. Eugenio, did you have something to say, sir?
Well, I think that when it's time to make an application for a rental, that the subject has to be broached, and the definition of what that companion animal comes up. It's a pet, it's a guide dog, or it's a support animal. And in that case, we have to see some kind of, we have to verify it, okay?
When did it become your job to verify?
Pardon?
When did it become your job to verify?
Well, because let's say that I'm working with a tenant, and if the agent representing the landlord is doing her job, an application will be presented so that I can see what that person or persons are all about. If they're going to be able to afford the rental, if that landlord is going to receive a check on the first of the month, and if that property is going to be well taken care of. Somebody has to walk and pick up after that support animal, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Hold the thought though. My question is clear. When did it become the responsibility of real estate agents to verify that information?
No, we convey messages between the two sides. We facilitate, we help, and if we're representing one side or the other, we have to do the best, of our ability to do a good job and be thorough.
Your good job does not require you to verify.
No.
It requires you to get information, but if I have an application that asks for that information and I provide it, your job is to pass it on.
Right.
Not verify.
But if I have already found out, that there is a companion animal, should I keep it to myself or should
No.
I?
Listen to me carefully. You're going to provide what you know. It is up to me, the tenant, to verify. Not your job as real estate agents to verify. Because then you are overstepping. It's sort of saying you have a landlord, and I'm going to use Sally. Sally over here is the landlord for that unit. Sally says, I want documentation proving that the animal you're presenting is serving this emotional support purpose, right? You're the agent. You then turn to me, the person, and say, I'm the prospective tenant, say, hey, Dorothy, the landlord will like you to provide some documentation about your emotional support animal. Okay? So I give you some paperwork. What do you do with that paperwork?
Pass it along.
You just send it along?
Yeah.
You're not verifying, is what I'm saying.
I'm using the word verifying, I'm using the word confirming.
What are you confirming?
Number one, the request, and I can also read it when we're talking about it, or just pass it along.
Pass it along. Pass it along. What I do when I have situations like that, I put the landlord and the tenant together. Leave me alone, for goodness sake, because then they can screw it up themselves. I have done my job. I have rented the apartment. I have opened the door, and now the landlord, Sally, and Dorothy, tenant, have made their discussions as to what else they need. You step out the way, because these requests can get a little crazy, especially if we have a landlord who may not want animals in their property. So your job is to open the door so that Sally can make a decision about me. And if Sally likes me as a person, she can now ask me whatever she wants, and you stay out of it. That is one way. Some of us don't stay out of it. We want to be in it. And I am saying, step away. See what your office policy requires, though. Go ahead, Eugenio.
Well, if I'm representing the landlord, I'd like to give that landlord advice as to what is correct and what is legal and what is acceptable.
When did you become an attorney?
We are a little bit.
No, we're not.
So
no,
why are we defending? Why are we here to defend the interests of the person we're representing?
Absolutely not. You're here to provide service. You may be able to provide counsel, but you are not an attorney. You are not here to put them in any way. You're supposed to provide the information so that Sally, and thank you, Sally, for allowing me to use the heck out of you. Sally is able to make a decision, an informed decision as to what it is. So let's say we have the landlord, which I'm going to go to Suzanne, has property where she doesn't want animals in there. If Suzanne is my landlady and she says no animals, I say no problem. I'm still going to show it because that's what my client has. But I will forward to Suzanne the information about service animals and all that in writing via email, so that there is documentation and she can now have the information to make a good decision or a bad decision. But as agents, we are supposed to educate also and make sure, and I'll come right to you, ma'am. I get you, Suzanne. And make sure that particular person has the information and they're doing the right thing. If for reasonable purposes, that's not an option, then that's on the landlord or landlady to make a decision. But as the agent in that process, I show the property, I provide the information so that both parties are there, and then I step away. Yes, ma'am. Go ahead, Suzanne.
My question would be, in getting the application, what if that particular prospective tenant supplies what the landlord's requesting, say, credit report or a FICO score, okay? And it is far short of what he's looking for. So it's a 500 credit score and he really wants somebody who's got good employment and so on. Does that allow?
Valid reason to say no.
That allows you to say no regardless of the animal.
Absolutely. That's a valid reason to say no. We're going to get that, because then that disability does not apply. You didn't even fit the FICO score. So that's an issue. We're going to talk about that real quick. But in terms of getting medical records and stuff, we're not allowed to. We're not allowed to get all that. So you check with your office policy and procedures and see what they expect of you and stay within the lines. But keep in mind, guys, you're also independent contractors. This is your business. So if you're going to ask one person for this information, you better be asking all of us for that information. Otherwise, you're not treating us fairly. So the fact that you don't see my disability does not mean I don't have one. We just have to be very careful in our questions or request for documentation so that we don't violate any rules that may be available to a protected class. So we've got that. Source of income is another one we are going to address also. Then I'll summarize when I go through the slides. Source of income is not a protected class in New York State. You know that, hopefully. So if I'm using grant funds to get a loan, or I'm using Section 8 funds, DHS, or whatever the alphabet soup is, to get into property, a landlord, a homeowner cannot say, we don't accept that. It's against the law. Source of income, as long as verifiable, whether it's not, I'm using alimony, palimony, divorce payment, grant funds, whatever the source is, as long as it's a lawful source of income, cannot be discriminated against. So if a landlord says, I don't accept this, Section 8, or I'm not willing to take grant funds, they cannot do that. That is discriminatory in the highest degree. It's protected. So Josephina, I'll come to you, and then we can ask my question, and Eugenio, I'll come to you too. So if the landlord says, and I'd say there's a listing, and let's say in the MLS, and I call the agent and I say, listen, my client would like to see this property. Do I need to let them know that person is on Section 8 or a voucher or something? Do I need to let them know that? Josephina, go ahead, Mom.
I think we do. We do need to know, because we need to know how to qualify the person. But then I had a question before you called on me. And what do we do when the landlords don't want to accept any of those programs, especially in New York City, that they have so many programs from the city? And
it's against the law. It's against the law.
How do we act? How do we go about it?
You showing the apartment, period. And you are going to present that offer to the landlord or landlady or whoever, the management company. Let them be the ones to say no. Even though you think it may be a waste of your time, again, the person you're working with, you don't know if they are a tester. And a tester is somebody who has, I'll come to you, Carol, a tester is somebody who is out there making sure that we are doing the right thing. Maybe there was a complaint heard about Josephina Real Estate. So they are there to test to see if your agents are doing the right thing, which is showing property to everybody and making sure everybody has access. So if you have a landlord or a management company that says, we don't take programs, you file a complaint with HUD. You file a complaint with DOS. It's against the law because source of income is a protected class in New York State. Not New York City, not Orange County, New York State. So we don't have a choice. It makes our jobs a little difficult because then we think we're wasting time, but our job is to open the door and show everything. Eugenio, did you have a comment before I go to Carol?
I have a question.
Yes, sir. Oh, unmute yourself.
I have a question.
Fine,
And I'll come to you, Fran.
Okay.
Eugenio, go ahead.
I had a question before about what recourse does a landlord have if a person who has a companion animal and abuses that?
And I'm going to plead the fifth and say, I don't know. Moving on to Carol. I have no idea.
Well, somebody I know got in with one pet, one companion dog, and now has 3. So I'm referring to that case, and I'm trying to figure out how that's
And I'm
So-
going to say, if you're not sure, if you're the broker, you have a problem. If you're not the broker, you might want to call your broker and ask them how they would like you to proceed. But at the end of my class and on your sheet, we have the number for Westchester Residential Opportunities. So it doesn't matter where you are in the Hudson Valley, they will direct you to an excellent resource to help you with that. But personally, no idea. And Yona, I'll come to you in a minute. Go ahead, Carol.
My question is, okay, I understand what you're saying about vouchers and Section 8.
Yes, ma'am.
However, if my landlord says to me, I don't want anyone here with a credit score less than 750 in my apartment regarding anything, is that, can I go back to my client who has a voucher, which I have done, so I hope I'm doing the right thing, and I say, listen, it's all well and good, and I'm sorry that I can't help them, but we must have a credit score of 750 or better.
Okay.
And it comes from the landlord.
A couple of my slides coming up will address that, but I'm going to answer you right now. If you think that landlord's requirement is meant to be discriminatory and shut out access to the property to certain people, you are bound to report. But if it is a property where the expectation of the tenant is unreasonable, you are bound to educate. But I will also ask that you get that request in writing. In writing. Because then it's from the landlord and not you, and it's not hearsay. Fran.
This is about the landlord and the tenant.
Yes, ma'am.
Before you said you put them together.
I do.
To ask the question about the protective dog. If the landlord says to the tenant, no, I don't care what kind of a dog you have. I want dogs no matter what they are. Can the landlord say that to the tenant?
No.
So
No.
what do you do then?
What I tend to do is I do put them together, but I also said that I will email them the information from HUD so they're informed about what their law is and what options they have. And I would have documented that based on email to you if they're the landlord, which says, yeah, cannot discriminate against this particular groups of animals. This way, if you're the landlord and you say, no, I don't care what you got, you're in trouble with HUD. Here comes a lawsuit probably, but
so you have to get documentation from the owner saying that under no circumstances does she want any pets, no matter what kind they are.
Even if the landlord says no animals, no pets, and this is a service dog, they don't get a pass. I don't care if they put it in blood, they don't get a pass. You're gonna go onto the HUD website or onto HGAR site where there is documentation about the protected classes and what you can and cannot do with them. And I would suggest you email that to your client, the landlord and the tenant, so everybody is informed about their rights.
Yeah.
Document that process.
Yeah.
Because
she knows that. She knows that. Yeah.
Then you are out of the loop because you've done your job. And now if the landlord says no, it's on them. You've done your job and you've documented. So that's important for us to be aware of. We're gonna go through a couple of slides because I definitely want to spend some time on the new forms that's out there. So we've talked, so this is gonna be speedy sliding. We're gonna go through these real quick, just so that it's addressed. And I've already asked what you can't ask for, what's wrong with you. You cannot ask for medical records. You can't talk to their doctor. You can't ask about how severe their disability, what kind of medication they're on. You can only ask for the least invasive information. That's what they're saying you can ask for. Do I agree with that? I don't know. I just say, listen, if they've got that animal, go ahead, show the property, and have the landlord get themselves into trouble. We also talked a little bit about source of income. I added that it is mandatory as of 2019 in New York State. It is protected, doesn't matter what you do, what you say. I also mentioned lawful source of income, child alimony, child support, alimony, palimony, social security income, all the, public assistance, DHS, SSS, whatever the sites are, vouchers and stuff. We need to be able to be aware of what is legal or not. If I cook cocaine, produce meth, whatever the hell the drug is, human trafficking, not a lawful source of income. If you're coming to me with a ton of cash in your bank account and I say, how are you making that money? And you say, well, Dorothy, you don't need to know. That's an issue. We need to be able to let people have the information, landlords, homeowners, sellers, before they can move forward. Banks want to know where your money's at. If you put more than 10,000 in, they want a paper trail showing where the money came from and how it went, where it went. So we need to make sure that we are treating everybody the same, exactly the same as in selling a home. If somebody's in the voucher or grant funds, you cannot say a home is not available to be seen. You cannot refuse to rent to that person. You cannot refuse to negotiate. You cannot say, oh, you don't want to live over here. This place will be better for you. No, no, no. You're going to show everything, not going to discriminate. You're going to treat everybody fairly, and you're going to make sure that everybody understands that within New York State, very, very, very limited exemptions. They say there are no special exemptions to the New York State source of income law. That's because everybody has the right to live somewhere. I know some landlords will say, well, I've had a bad experience with this person and that. Well, thank you very much. Is the apartment available to be shown? You're going to show the property and then let the chips fall where they may. A lot of us, and I think some of the classes I've taught, they say, oh, I don't want to waste my time. Who cares about wasting your time at this point in time? Try to qualify them as best as you can in the office, but make sure you have things to show. Again, you don't know who is a tester or not. It's important that we understand that. So anything that's out there, we need to be able to show. If I am a landlord living in my property and I don't have more than one or two, they say there are some exemptions that I may be allowed. Keep in mind that the exemption does not apply to any of the federally protected classes or the additions that have been put on by the local and state. You are very limited in what sort of exemptions as a homeowner you may have if you occupy the property. So make sure that you understand it as the agent and you understand it as a homeowner or a landlord who is renting their property or has investment property. Can a landlord ask about the source of income? Absolutely, they can. The housing providers may ask about it, but you ask about documentation. If I'm on a voucher program and that money and rent is being paid by the government, what does my FICO score have to do with anything? If you are willing to take a voucher program, my FICO score has nothing to do with it because I'm not paying the rent anyway. The government is sending you a check the first of every month. Again, the middle one talks about a minimum score. Yes, if your FICO score is a requirement of 750, a lot of us right now may not be able to hit that 750 mark. You might want to be reasonable and come to a 680 or maybe a 650, who knows. But as long as the request for a FICO score is not meant to be discriminatory, that I'm not asking for that information to block out certain people, then it's okay to say that, yep, we need a FICO score and hopefully we all meet it. Can a landlord require and say that no Section 8, no vouchers, no this and that? Absolutely not. Protected source of income. Absolutely no landlord saying they will not allow this and they will just allow everybody into the property. Only tenants with a job? Nope. As long as it's one of these protected sources, a landlord cannot say no. A work in Section 8, what the heck is that? I don't even know what a work in Section 8 is. That is important that we make sure that we understand that and make sure that we know what it is that we're asking for. We also want to make sure that it is understood that A landlord may ask a lot of questions, but are we willing to be the agent that is enforcing something that may not be legal? Ask the question of yourself. If you're not sure, check with your broker or your managers. You know, my kid rented the property in the city, and I was very concerned because, you know, it had to be 40 times her income. She just graduated college. No income there. So guess what? I had to sign that lease. I had to put up the money, and I just paid it and called it a day. But sometimes the request is okay. But again, we need to be trying to be fair and reasonable when dealing with people in terms of the ability to afford anything. Just another definition of familial status. Actually, no, let me stop before I did that. This was another thing that came up recently, that was 2 days ago, in talking about bias in lending. You know, some of the questions that I have would be that, and I'll get off the screen and we'll talk about that a little bit, whether or not there is bias in lending. What constitutes bias in lending? Let me go back. Okay, great, that's fine. And I think I have a little bit more time. Excellent. When we talk about bias in lending, I did show you the map where we addressed redlining. So with that being said, when we're working with buyers, we refer lenders, our loan officers, we work with them. So we want to make sure that when we refer 2 or 3 or how many ever you refer, they are able to provide a quality of service that is complementary to you. So if Holly refers a loan officer or 2 or 3, and she's been doing business with them for a while, like me, when I refer people out, my reputation goes with that, that referral. I expect them to do a good job. And if they're not going to do a good job, you're off my list. Now, talking about bias in lending, and the reason I added this to this PowerPoint yesterday or today, I don't even, and my PowerPoints are always changing. Why I added it was because we were talking and I read a few articles and I said, so how does bias in lending come about? Why would a loan officer or a bank or somebody refuse to give money to a person who's willing to buy? What do you think? Because we agree that everybody in some way or form who touches real estate is open to a lawsuit. So where would we see some form of bias in lending? Where would we see that?
I'm going to take a guess.
Yes, ma'am.
Maybe the person that wants to buy the house lives in a similar neighborhood or community as the lender, and they're like, I don't want that person near me.
It could be based on race, could be based on religion, could be based on the fact that maybe that neighborhood, and you're right, Marcy, that, you know, maybe the person doesn't want to give loans to that particular person, but realize that also the lender, and that's a shame, when they send out an appraiser, how does an appraiser get into trouble? By not appraising the property correctly. Let's say the property is in White Plains in Westchester, and you're using property from Portchester or Peekskill to use as comparables when it's not. Or maybe I'm in New City, but I'm looking for property out in Nyack and West Haverstraw as comparables. That's a bias in lending. So what are we as agents actually know? What should we as agents be looking for when we're referring people out? If I want to refer somebody to Holly, Holly, where are you? Unmute yourself for a quick second. What community are you in, love?
I live in North Salem, Westchester County.
Oh my God, I was in South Salem yesterday too. Ugh, I'm getting up there. So, okay, you live in North Salem, and let's say, and I'm familiar with, I've been doing this too long, but anyway, I'm looking for horse property, okay? So I want to buy
You're in the right neighborhood.
I want to buy some property up in your area here. How would you see if there is bias in lending? I come to buy property from you, spending $7 to $10, whatever, $1 million here. Want to buy property. How would there be a bias in lending if you want to try to give me an example? Because I already talked about appraisals. So how would you think an issue would occur? I might say, well, you know, Holly, I don't think that they treated me well. They didn't come in at the price or whatever. What do you think?
Are we looking at it from an appraisal's perspective or just you as a potential buyer?
A potential buyer, Sloan.
Someone could possibly say, well, where do you live now? And what kind of a job do you have? Because you're making a perceived judgment that maybe that person couldn't afford it.
Well, that's good. That's one way to look at it. But let's also look at the fact that, you know, let's say I'm coming from New York City and I don't know anything about what's going on in Westchester County area, especially in your area here. Would you refer me to lenders that maybe you've done business with? And why would you pick those lenders?
Because they may have already proven themselves credible in terms of how they go about doing their business in a fair and equal way, not being discriminatory.
So I would assume that, thanks a lot, Holly. So let's go. Juliana, you're over there. I don't see you well. Thanks, Holly.
You're
But
welcome.
Juliana, let's see if, you know, in terms of people you refer out, lenders, what are you looking for from them? Unmute. Push the red microphone. Thank you.
Well, there's usually that they, you know, they're approving everyone that, you know, has credit, and that they are being equal to all classifications and, you know, types of people.
So now that, well, let's assume you've all been in the business, let's say a few years or so. So you've all developed relationships with some lenders. How are you selecting that person to say, oh my God, Dorothy's my go-to guy?
Well, I usually always refer out 3.
So let's say of those 3, how did I become one of the people on that list to be your go-to?
Because a lot of times they're able to, you know, whether it's certain types of criteria that they might have, like for certain loans, they're able to work with them and, you know, get the job done, whether it's a rehab or,
Awesome.
you know, they kind of know all of the right contacts to kind of help them along with the process. And
Okay.
they're very credible.
That's terrific.
You know, there's other ones out there, everything falls apart and the transaction never happens.
Okay, I think that's terrific. And I think what, again, we're looking at, because sometimes we refer people out because your office says you should use Dorothy as one of your go-to people. Doesn't mean Dorothy's a great person, doesn't mean Dorothy's the right person for this particular buyer. So again, we develop the relationships that we need to be able to put out there so that we are discussing with the potential buyers what options they have in terms of who's going to be able to work with them. So if I'm referring out Eugenio, Jonathan, and Claire, then I've worked with all 3 and know where their strengths are, that if the buyer asks me a question, I can be proactive and positive about these 3 people that have put their names forth and they're able to accomplish it. Eugenio, did you have something to say before I go back to Sharon?
I'm just nodding because it's a business. And I want to do business with those people who get the process going and do a thorough job and know their business. And who will do well for my client because I want the deal to go through. So, you know, and I can't just say, oh, go to Chase Bank or go to Citibank. I want to know the person that I'm referring my clients to because I've already made a match between that person and that property, and now I want, you know, the financial part to go through as well.
Well,
So
being that we're talking about fair housing, that's terrific. Being that we're talking about fair housing, and all of you on the screen here, your moral, you know, meter is way above what is considered normal. You guys want to do the right thing. You want to make sure whoever you're working with is getting 150%. Then the person you're referring to has to be like you. Has to be like you in terms of how they do business. they do not discriminate, they'll provide a heck of a lot of service, and they will follow through. So who you're matching them up with should be like you, so that we can make sure that everybody is on the same page and we not get into trouble. So I'm gonna go share real quick because I do wanna cover those forms so that we're good to go. So in terms of where we'll see bias in lending, I did mention appraisal, areas in interest rates. Sometimes the interest rate that you're giving a Black person or a Spanish person is a lot higher than what you'll give the white person, or the requirement for a down payment may be a lot higher. So there are different ways where we can discriminate. So we need to make sure, again, I talked about vetting the lenders we do business with, how we are guiding people along in terms of what's required out there. And I'm gonna X out of here, great. And then what we need to be able to address. We've got familial status. I spent some time on familial status. I'm not gonna beat this one to death because we have done that. What I also wanted to briefly touch base on, we have the co-ops that we all work with, that you work so hard on, then the deal dies and then nothing out there. Again, this is just to put it in that this is available to us in our Hudson Gateway Association of Realtors. These are one of the tools that we can use to make sure that if somebody's denied, you send a letter to the board, there's, you know, and then they can go ahead and the Westchester County Fair Housing Law requirement, and then they can try to keep an eye on how many buildings are turning people down, where the issues are, whether or not we want to do more education, and what is required from us. So agents, again, on your handout, there are some links that you can go and contact these people, and I'm going to go through it real quick, but you can contact these people and make sure that at least you have some documentation as to who can do what. Suing, this is America. Anybody can sue for anything. Do they have the right to sue? Absolutely. As agents, can we defend our position? And that's really important to me. How do you defend your position? When I get off the screen, I'll bring that question back up. When I talk about whether or not you're a fair housing agent, how are you a fair housing agent, and so on and so forth, we will address that. Also, as an agent, what do we have here? All these people I already addressed, and I'm gonna skip, can be liable for unlawful discrimination as long as you're touching real estate, absolutely. I've got here multiple listing. Multiple listing cannot say they don't want this person to be a part of the multiple listing, they'll accept this person. Nope, if I apply, I'm qualified, I can pay the fees, let me in. Homeowners associations cannot discriminate against people, but again, what do we know? They seem to think they can do whatever they want. We need to be aware of who's enforcing fair housing. We have HUD, you know, we have testers, and I kept mentioning testers quite a bit. Anybody can file a lawsuit, HUD complaints, civil lawsuits, and the process of going through that. What is your responsibility as an agent? I think it's important that as an agent, you provide equal service to all. I've got here non-biased service. Again, that's a whole different topic. I have a course on that. And that is important for us to know what is biased service, how is this biased service, and are we doing the best in terms of what we have available. We have here, of course, NAR's Code of Ethics. I mentioned that quite a few times. This is a brand new addition to the Code of Ethics. Realtors may not refuse to cooperate on the basis of a broker's race, color, religion, sex, handicap, familial status, national origin, sexual orientation, or gender identity. When you see in our Code of Ethics that it was adopted 120, that came into play this year, 2020. That, and I've been watching, I pay attention to a lot of cases that come out, I read a lot of stuff. Realtors out who are gay in certain parts of the country were being refused access. Fellow brokers didn't want to cooperate with them because of their sexual orientation. That's an issue. So we need, and then of course, once we do something bad, it becomes part of our Code of Ethics. This is a living, breathing document. So we need to be aware of what is out there, what we are capable of doing, not doing, and how we get into trouble. I did mention Article 10 earlier in the course that we have this, and this is in our Code of Ethics. Also lists all the protected classes and the protections that we shall not be parties to any plan or agreement to discriminate against personal persons on the basis of, again, a list of the protected classes. Now, these are the new forms, the anti-housing. For those of you who haven't seen it, God help us all, it's part of your packet. This is what it's called, the anti-housing discrimination form. This is important. It lists here what we are not supposed to do if we violate the law, if we are refusing to, negotiate, show property, steering, based on what the seller or the landlord wants. It lists everything here. It also lists available that the person, what they can do, they can file a complaint with the Division of Human Rights, DHR, and how to go about it. And then there's a fair housing hotline for them. And they've given them a lot of options on what they can use. Now, my part of this, which is the second page, is who gave them the form and who your brokerage is. And, the buyers have to read it, understand it, seller, landlord, tenant, everybody gets one of these. Required. We need to make sure we are aware of the fact that this is required and we must give it out. Again, it is a link on your paperwork, so let's be aware of it. And this, I recommend, must go out with your agency disclosure if that's what you're sending out. The other thing that's here is your fair housing poster. Not doing so many open houses where people walk in and then they can see that. This is a fair housing notice. I'm a broker. It is posted in my office. My office requirement is that it is posted in every single house we have on the market, whether or not we are holding open houses. Doesn't matter, because at the bottom of it, it says that it must be prominently posted in all real estate brokers' offices and at all public open houses. There are a lot of people doing the online open houses. If you are one of those, this poster must be visible when you're doing your virtual tour, when you're walking around the home, it has to be visible. So this is important that you go ahead and make sure that you are, again, following the law. It again lists what we, there's some examples of potential fair housing violations. We are aware of them. We need to make sure that we are in compliance. These two forms must be prominently, if you have a website, displayed on your website above the fold. So my website has it in the phone line. It's right there on the front page. You don't have to click off the page. It's right at the top. The links are available on my website. The law requires that it is available on the website, not below the fold, on the website. So if you have a website, make sure it's there. I have also personally, I'm a little bit of a lunatic, personally attached it to my email signature that goes out to every client, every buyer, every prospect that reaches out to me. These two links are available. The links to the agency form available, both for buyer, seller, tenant, landlord. These are 4 links that are attached to my signature, and I recommend, if you have the space, attach it to your signature so that you absolutely have it over displayed. It has to be, if you have a section on your website, I have a compliance section. I have it there too. I have it everywhere. And it is important that you know, if you have never seen these forms, please go download them. You have it now. Make it a part of your initial package when you meet with people and you're having substantive conversation. Make sure they've executed. Make sure that I know where you stand when it comes to fair housing. I understand your position on fair housing, and I know that you will not be discriminating against me in any way. We have a last video here, then I'm going to come back to you because I asked you some questions before we began the class. Are you a fair housing agent? How are you a fair housing agent? And how are you implementing this in your business? and I am going to be expecting some answers. So you got about 5 minutes of this video and we are done for the day. So hold it. Can you see it? No? Can you see it or hear it?
On April 11th,
I can see it and hear it.
the Fair Housing Act was
Thank
enacted
you.
into law, recognizing that property rights should not be abridged because of discrimination based on race, color, national origin, or religion. Resistance, harassment, and violence are unfortunately hallmarks of the pursuit of equal housing in our country. For generations, access to housing of choice didn't mean access for all. Where you lived was often dictated by the color of your skin.
There was a thing known as white flight. If there are 2 or 3 African Americans in a block, then it's time to go. Real estate brokers that were taking full advantage of those fears, of that flight. That's how many of the communities were changing block by block through the course of a summer.
But the population was discriminating. You know, the neighborhood, whenever a person of color came into a neighborhood, people began to sell, they panic, you know. It was awful, you know.
In the mid 70s, I was showing a black couple through a home, and I got a phone call from a neighbor who used very offensive language and told me that if I sold that house to that person or that group, that they would do physical harm.
We acknowledge our industries and associations' early opposition to fair housing and recognize those individuals and organizations that helped change our policy. For example, in 1947, African American real estate brokers formed the National Association of Real Estate Brokers with a clear fair housing purpose.
And that certainly started to give me a platform necessary to not only talk with my realtor brothers and sisters, but to work even more diligently within the community which we came from, which was denied opportunities of property ownership.
Many people have given much of their lives to advance the cause of fair housing, often risking more than just their livelihoods. Despite continued opposition across the country, the Fair Housing Act declared a national policy of fair housing by prohibiting discrimination based on race, color, religion, and national origin. Changing attitudes and behaviors proved to be difficult.
And the community organizations attacked us that first year, breaking our office windows, demonstrating in front of the office, coming into office. There was a network of ladies that were at home that would call and jam our telephones. Stop selling in our neighborhood, click up. Stop blockbusting in our neighborhood, click up, you know, et cetera, et cetera.
Progress has been made. The Fair Housing Act was amended in later years to prohibit discrimination based on gender, disability, and familial status, and to increase enforcement of the law.
So when we looked at it and said, no, wait a minute, this makes good business sense to be a positive person in the real estate market and following the fair housing law, that we should get out there and do something to prove and help our members know that they're doing the right thing.
When I started out, I remember having people say, well, I want to go to this neighborhood, but I don't want to go to that neighborhood. And it seems like over time, I mean, we're talking 30 something years, I don't get those questions asked. Where I live, everywhere, there's people, all sorts of race, creed, color, age. It's a true melting pot.
But many communities remain segregated, and housing discrimination based on race, religion, and more still exists. Only half the country prohibits discrimination in housing against the LGBT community, and HUD reports that the highest proportion of complaints involve discrimination based on disability. Each of us, as realtors, as business leaders, or leaders in our local, state, and national associations, have a role to play in this commemoration. Today, we're leading efforts to expand fair housing protections based on sexual orientation and gender identity. We must strive, together with our partners, to define how to bring about a market that's truly open and provides equal housing opportunities. We are not alone in commemorating the Fair Housing Anniversary. We are working together with our partners and allies to show that our industry is firmly committed to equal housing opportunities and recognizes the unique and important role each organization and each of us has in this monumental endeavor.
Fair housing has made us stronger in a lot of different ways. One of them is protecting us in all of these areas. Race, religion, familial status, age, everything.
Well, we're just doing the right thing for people, for everybody. So we're doing what's ethical and what's right.
Our Fair Housing Center and the Grand Rapids Association of Realtors works in coordination with each other to make sure that fair housing is absolutely there for all.
How will you participate in commemorating the 50th anniversary of the Fair Housing Act? After all,
Fair housing.
Fair housing.
Fair housing.
Fair housing makes us stronger.
Makes us stronger.
Makes us stronger.
All righty now. I am done for that. I think I'm all done. Shame on me. I think I'm all, yeah, I think we're done. We're finished. So now we are going to come back and talk a little bit about my initial questions to you guys. Are you a fair housing agent? How are you a fair housing agent? Did we learn anything that will change our business, and how are you implementing that in your business? So unmute yourselves and let's go. All right, go ahead. Let's see. Who have I not spoken to? I've spoken to Sally. I've spoken to everybody. Oh, I've spoken to everybody kind of like. Vicky, let's start with you. Are you a fair housing agent? How are you? And so on and so forth. Go ahead, Vicky.
Yes, I am. I'm a fair housing agent because I treat everybody fairly, no matter what their race, color, religion, and national origin is, or gender, or disability, etc. So I am a fair housing agent.
Awesome. What do you do in your business now? Do you implement, or if anything at all, what may you implement after this class that will make you better? More, I mean, you're amazing, but let's get to way amazing. What do you think?
Okay.
What do you think, Vicky? You already used the disclosure form?
Excuse me?
You already used the disclosure form?
Yes.
Awesome. Pretty awesome. Very nice. All righty. Holly, let's do it.
Well, yes, I try to be a fair housing agent. Always room for improvement. I'm learning. I definitely picked up today less about me or I, more about you, and always put another perspective into it. And you asked a question before, should you care? I think you should always care.
Absolutely.
So.
Absolutely. Outstanding. Let's go here to Miss Sally. I see your head though. There you go. I see your finger too. Awesome. We see you. Unmute yourself. Unmute yourself. Thank you. Yes, ma'am.
I'm a fair housing agent. I think I've always had philosophy to be a fair housing agent because I just do not tolerate discrimination from a landlord. Walked away from me after, and I walked away, and I really feel that fair housing is the absolute right thing to do, and we should absolutely not discriminate against anybody.
Absolutely.
So that is something that I've always been adamant about, and that's something that's part of who I am. And I think that comes across in how I deal with me and how I deal with people of all races, all genders, all ethnic or religion. So I have the forms, I use the forms, and if something comes to me that I feel like it is racist, I either talk to my broker about it, or there's a lot of business that I have not done or walked away from because a landlord has asked me to be racist and said no. And so I think that it's something that you have to really learn about and be very aware of, because it is, unfortunately, it is out there, and we'll need to prepare ourselves and be honest about it.
Excellent. Well, that's good. Excellent. Yona, thank you. Thank you, Sally. Yona, what do you think? And guys, I'm going to go through all of you real quick, so make it a minute and a half.
Well, obviously, I always try to be fair and equal, but I do have a question.
Yes, ma'am.
Being a agent and a landlord, when you say the agent has to do their job, let the landlord decide. I provide everything to the landlord, let them decide. But being a landlord as well, that gives it a little bit of a tough decision, because sometimes as a landlord, if you, or someone else who's a landlord as well, giving them the option of, well, now their income is not sufficient or their credit is not good enough. How do you draw the line there? That's my question.
I think Suzanne had also mentioned she's a landlord. I'm going to say that. And I only think that if I'm wrong, correct me. But I'm saying that because if you are the landlord in a position also, as long as you're making an informed decision and it's not based on any of the protected classes, not based on any of the protected classes, if it's based on my income, lack of qualification because it's on FICO score, if it's not based on any of the protected classes, you're good to go. You're good to go. It's when it becomes based on your protected classes. And right now, our protected class again, and if I'm a landlord, Section 8, source of income. Again, I would need to be extra careful in that, but if the decision is not made solely on that, but in addition to, let's say, a FICO score or some other requirement, and it is applied across the board with everybody, you're good to go. Across the board with everybody, you're good to go. There should be no issue at all. Right? Eugenio, what do you think? Are you a fair housing agent? You got a minute and a half, sir.
I think I am a fair housing agent. I've been here 60 years, and every day I'm asked where I'm from. So I don't put up with that type of question very easily anymore. I am a merchant, and everybody who comes in my door has $100 in their pocket that I want in my pocket. And I'm going to do the best I can to get that person what they're looking for, whether it's somebody who's selling or somebody who wants to rent or somebody who wants to buy. End of story.
Thank you. Elizabeth, what do you think? Are you a fair housing agent?
I believe I am a fair housing agent. I've always helped whoever came to me because I do like to keep in touch with people that I have put where they are happy. So I do believe I am.
Outstanding. Thank you so much. Let's go here. Jonathan, what do you think?
Well, I strive to be a fair housing agent, so I try and keep learning. I want to make sure that the people that I work with are fully informed of their rights and also that they feel like they're receiving the kind of service and treatment that they expect. So part of what we're doing in this case is making sure that people understand that they have these rights and to help them to exercise these things in addition to the transaction.
Brilliant. Thanks a lot. Claire, what do you think?
Well, I've learned a lot that I need to improve from this class. And I still have questions, but I want to ask on the side to you.
Yes, ma'am. That's okay. My information is on your handout. Feel free to call me.
And I do have, because I feel in the last 2 weeks something.
Not a problem. I'm happy to oblige. Let's go. Suzanne, Miss Sweeney, how we doing here? Fair housing agent, yes or no? Minute and a half goes.
Yes, I believe I am. However, like Jonathan said, I strive to do better and keep on top of things so that I can maintain that status as a fair housing agent.
Outstanding, guys. Miss Kopak, Suzanne. Susan, yes, ma'am. Guys, unmute yourselves unless you have your kids and cats and dogs back there. Thank you.
Okay, so my motto is no commission.
You got a minute and a half.
I'll be fast. No commission is worth my integrity.
Yes, ma'am.
I try to be fair and equal to all. I really want to keep updated on all the new things that are going on, hear what's going on, and be cognizant of it and see how I can improve. And I do use all the current forms.
Pretty awesome. Thank you very much. Oh God, I'm sorry. I'm gonna mispronounce Shanae. 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 Thank you.
Yes. And so, yes, I think we all have to be fair housing agents. It's only right that everyone gets to live wherever they can afford to live.
Outstanding. Thank you, guys. And let's go, Mr. Weiner, Shaman, you're in block. Go ahead.
I make sure to satisfy all my customers, no matter what race they are, make sure they're all happy and safe.
Thank you, sir. That's amazing. Josephina.
Yes, I am a fair housing agent. I try to be fair and equal to everyone. I have two questions real quick. When they say I want to be in such and such area and they give you the zip codes they want to be in, do we just go ahead and work in those areas, or?
Yes, ma'am. Make sure you get it in writing. Yes, ma'am. You are welcome to do that because you are not the one selecting the zip code. They are.
Okay.
Yes,
and
ma'am.
then also when the landlord say, I do not want anyone that has landlord-tenant court issues, like, when it comes on the credit like that.
When the landlord says that, again, are you the one providing the screening, and are you providing the screening to everybody? My recommendation is, of course, check with your broker manager, see what they recommend. My recommendation to you is when the tenant provides their credit report, you transmit it directly to the landlord so that you are not the one making that decision. Let the landlord be in control of that decision. Even though they've told you that this is not what you want, let the landlord make that decision in writing, even if they are mad at you for giving them the information. Are you good? Yes, ma'am. Marcy.
Yes, ma'am. It's part of my personal integrity and my moral compass to treat everyone equally and fairly. I provide the forms, both the agency disclosure and the anti-discrimination form, right up front so people know that it is a part of my core business. It's on my website, social media, and my email. And I'm kind of the agent, where you hear something, see something, you say something.
Say something. Outstanding. Tony.
Yes, I think that I am a fair and equal real estate agent. And I certainly have learned not to talk so much about myself. That's something I've done now. But I know that over the years, and I've been in the business a long time, I know that I've done a good job and have treated everybody properly because of the people that have come back to me.
Outstanding. Thank you. Yona, let's do it. I'm almost done with everybody. I think I've got Carol and Juliana and Fran, but go ahead. Yona. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, I would say I definitely have learned a lot of things. I know things are changing day by day, year by year, and we all have to be aware of the changes at all times. And I understand why they keep making us take these courses so that we're up to date, because sometimes you lose track of what's happening.
Outstanding. Fran, yes, ma'am.
Hi, I've been a fair housing agent since 1970. So I think it's a very long time. And I always like to treat people like I want to be treated. And that's the secret of my success.
Yes, ma'am. Outstanding. Carol, go ahead, babe. Unmute. I think Sarah's just been on mute. She's muted herself the whole time. Unmute yourself, Sarah. Carol, go ahead. Carol.
Okay, I've been a broker since 1969, and I must say these classes are great for us who haven't been going to classes for the last 10 or 12 years. But I've always practiced treating every single person that comes in my office the same, each and every one of them.
Thank you, ma'am.
Sure that I have them sign all the forms, although I'm glad I learned about the new forms today. And I also believe in documenting everything, and that has helped and kept me out of trouble forever.
Very nice. Juliana.
Yes, I am a fair housing agent. I give everyone all of my disclosures, but going forward, I am going to put them in my signature line, as you have recommended, so that way they're always there.
Yes, ma'am. That's terrific. Sarah, I think you're the last one. Woohoo!
Yeah, same here. I'm a pretty new agent and also not so much there right now because
I've been busy taking care of my kids.
Not a problem. Yes, ma'am.
No, definitely learned a lot, and you know, we'll be implementing.
No worries at all. Did I miss somebody? This was a fairly good sized class. Great. Guys, I think we are just, it's 12:30. Woohoo! All righty. Anyway, guys, thank you for your time. I appreciate it. Lisa and Jesse have instructions for you, but I am good and thanks for your attention. My information is on the handout. Feel free to reach out, Claire, anybody who may have some questions. Marcy, love to speak to you, and then we'll go. Nothing bad. Thank you, guys. And Lisa,
thank you so much. It was a great class.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dorothy. And everybody, if you can please sign out in the chat box, that would be great. Thank you so much.
You.
Are we done?
All done. Thank you.
Thank you.
Have a good day, Lisa.
Thank
You
you.
too. Thanks,
Have a
Fran.
good day, Jennifer.
Thank you.
Lisa. I
Hi,
need to speak
Vicky.
with you.
Hi, Fran. Bye, everyone.
Bye.
Bye.
Signing out. Signing out now.
Okay, got it, Shimon. Thank you.
I'll see you later, Lisa. I'm taking the legal class later if you're going to be on
Yes.
that.
Yes, we'll see you a little bit later.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye.
See you later, Jessica.
See you later.
Do you want me to end the meeting, Lisa?
What, Jessica?
You want me to end it?
Yes, yes. Thanks. See you later.
See ya.